Hello and welcome to another episode of Podcast 572. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. I'm joined by my two friends, Dan and Matt. We're going to go ahead and kick it off with what we've been playing. My 2 weeks has been boring. A lot of life stuff.
It happens sometimes.
It does, yeah. We had a lot of stuff go on in the last 2 weeks here that I didn't get to play a lot of video games. In fact, I put it together when you and I played Diablo last Tuesday. I had not played a game since the previous Thursday.
Wow.
So, because just a lot of stuff. So, for me, really, and it'll be quick. We obviously played more Diablo 4. You'd say, because you're helping me get through the end of it. We have maybe one more session, and I'm done with the story.
Yeah, we powered through.
So I can,
pretty much most of Act 5.
We're in Act 5.
I want to say there's two major things left.
Okay. I would assume one of them being fighting
pretty
Lilith.
Close. Whoa, spoilers.
Whoa, spoiler. You're going to fight her.
Yeah. No, we're pretty close. Running through that game has been relatively easy just because I already have that all done and the map unlocked. Yeah. We also I moved it up to World Tier 2, so that helps level my character faster.
Yeah.
So but I just want to get through to that point so I can play the seasonal thing. So
yeah, because then we can jump over to that.
And that's what I'm looking more forward to with the game. So outside of that, I've really been trying to give the Steam Deck some love. So I've been playing a lot of that Renfield game, which is basically just, as I said before, 16-bit Vampire Survivors. It is a very good movie tie-in game, though. So for a cheap $5 Vampire Survivors knockoff, it's a lot of fun. So I've been doing a lot of that on the Steam Deck. I did because I did go over because everybody's super hyped on Baldur's Gate 3. It is Steam Deck compatible fully, but I am gonna wait because for me personally, I can't dump that time into that game.
Oh God,
2 weeks before Armored Core, and then 3 weeks before Starfield, Mortal Kombat.
I've been talking to a friend about it too, and it's I am very interested in it, but I don't have 500 hours to put.
It's one of those where it's maybe towards the end of the year, into January when it's maybe dead.
And with it being digital only, I wish listed it. I'll wait for the sale.
There'll be some sort of sale during the holidays.
You know what I will say too? I didn't realize until today, because maybe I just never noticed, but I didn't realize that game is full co-op too. But it works in such a way where you can set it where you only see things that happen to you, and you could split the party and do whatever you want.
That's cool.
It's crazy, what it allows you to do. So
you mean it works like a modern cooperative game should work?
Well, it works like D&D works, which is what it's trying to be. But I'm also hoping too that the console version will just be better at release than the PC one, just because it'll add a month. So they have come out. I know the developer of that, or the studio that's made that game, has come out and said they're going to ship that PS5 version in September with all the updates that they've put into the PC version already. So being a digital only release, it's a lot easier to do.
Yeah,
they don't have to worry about.
I was talking
day one patch and all that stuff.
I was talking to you before we started recording, but I feel with how successful this game is, and it's massively successful to a point that it's shaking up the industry.
It's breaking records already.
I feel some publisher, somebody is going to make a physical copy of this game at some point,
maybe down the line
in its life its lifespan.
It's something I would pick up later for sure.
Yeah. So, but I'm very interested in it, but it's the literal worst time to put the game out for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and then the last thing I threw on here, because it's very random, but we were supposed to go see the Turtles movie last Thursday, and then we had some stuff happen last minute. We weren't able to go, and we ended up going a different night. And so I ended up coming into the office for a little bit because I had nothing but time, and said, I'm going to load up my computer and play something on Steam. And I just played a couple matches of CSGO.
Wow.
For the first time in probably 3 or 4 years. And yeah, if you don't know what's going on with CSGO, it's a hellhole. So it's just like, think of it like if you could imagine the Wild West of like, and maybe this is how it is on PC for Call of Duty, but like imagine the Wild West of like Call of Duty where they just let you do whatever you want, your gamer picture, your name.
Oh man,
that's what it is. Like without going into details, like you're going to see offensive names, offensive pictures. Like
CS:GO was barely monitored when it was relevant. Like exactly. I can only imagine what it's like now, man. Like Jesus.
And now it's just people that's all they do. So you're not, if you're not in the loop on that game, you're not going to do very good. So my matches were whatever matches, but I had fun playing it. So
you'd have been better off booting up your copy of Counter-Strike for Xbox. Your
there you go.
Your fake one?
My fake one?
Yeah.
What was it? X Gems?
X
Gems. Hey man, one day it'll be worth something.
Sure.
And then I'll just throw it in here because the last thing I did, and this is a good story. I like for the last like month, for whatever reason, I've just churned my Facebook feed because the Facebook is terrible. Mm-hmm. I have churned it into just like I joined like maybe 15 different like guitar like buy sell trade groups. So like my feed is like I might see a news article and then it's like 15 different guitars, whatever. So one guy was selling. I own 3 guitars from a manufacturer called Silvertone, which are really good. I think they're really good guitars, but I had one guy put one up for $45, and I sat on this. I looked at it, and all it said was like wiring issue. Guy can't figure it out, so I'm selling it for $45. I'm like, okay, and I'm like, you know what? I'm dumb to not do this. So, because I'm like, if it's a wiring issue with like a pickup or something, that's an evening of work. So I did that. It came. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday? It came this week. I pulled this thing out within 30 seconds. If you know anything about guitar, this will make sense. Within 30 seconds, I figured out what this guy's wiring problem was, which is the input jack was just loose. Like he literally like loose to the point that like the wire was like a little dislodged, not disconnected. Like I had to solder it, just a little dislodged. So I literally like slapped that back in, screwed that thing back up so it's real tight. I got a much more than $45 guitar now for $45.
There you go.
That was my win for the week. So, but that for me, it's just really boring week. I will make the promise here that I am going to try that Aliens game before the next time we record. It is installed on both of my Xboxes. So I'm ready to play it.
You gotta get that done before Armored Core comes out, because then
I'm probably gonna invest in it because like outside of like playing Diablo with you just to get that done. Mm-hmm. And I know this weekend my girlfriend actually is like, I want to play Diablo, so we'll probably play some with our characters, which are very underleveled. But I am gonna just try to plow through see what the story is of that game, because I can't imagine it's like too long. It's an XCOM type game, so but I will have more to say about that next week. So that's my plan, because I believe the next day that we record is literally the day of the release of Armored Core. So
gosh.
I might have
on a Friday?
It comes out I think it comes out that Thursday.
Okay.
So I might have a little time to play it before we record. That's what I'm hoping. So, but I will kick it over to you, Dan, because you probably played more than I have.
I played the
past 2 weeks.
A mess of stuff, but a lot of it's like older stuff. So one of the things I did was because they finally put Miles Morales on Plus, like Premium or whatever.
Yeah.
And while I've already played it for PS5, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to get in the Spider-Man mood, because I've only got a couple months before that's out. This is up here for free now. And I know that, Miles is shorter than regular Spider-Man. I was like, I'll just download the PS4 version and play through that for the trophies and play through that game again. And it just reminds me how good those games really are. I hadn't, obviously I hadn't played one for 3 years, I think is when it came out. But man, those games are just so good.
It was a launch title.
Yeah. And the main reason, you bought it was you got the Spider-Man remaster,
yeah.
Which, some would say it's the worst version because of his face, but whatever. But yeah, the Miles game, man, it's so good. I platinumed it already again, because it's short. It's very short, but playing as him, it actually feels like a different game because he has different powers. even though it's, the same map again, but it's not that big of a deal. I was talking to you about it. I think we said it before too about Spider-Man 2. It's like, I'm okay with Spider-Man 2 being the same map again with a little bit more, but when we eventually get to 3, or if we do like a Spider-Man 2, side story
or whatever it is,
like this was, at some point, man, we probably have to go someplace else.
I would think if they do that, I would think it'd be for the 2.5 game. Like, make it a thing where, like, Peter and Miles like get into something where they get transported somewhere else, like a different area.
But we got to do something else, because at that point
you can't just keep doing
New York over and over again, man. There's not much else we can cram in there. So I played through that game again. That game's fun. I played the PS4 version. It, maybe there is some kind of like PS5-ness to it, but it's still looks incredible. I mean, even the first one did. I mean,
I'm sure if you were to load that up on a PS4 Pro, it's probably going to sound like a jet engine.
Oh, but that's true.
I think playing on a PS5, it's probably fine.
Yeah, I've never had any problems with my PS5 yet.
No.
So I played that, and then a friend of mine texted me and another buddy. He's like, "We should play something together." And I was like, "Well, I've heard really good things about Remnant 2. I kind of want to play Remnant 2 just because of everything I've read about it." And it was at that point that the other friend reminded me that, well, Remnant 1's on PlayStation, and it was actually a Plus game at some point. So you probably own it. And I was like, I think you're right. So sure enough, went through, realized, all 3 of us owned it. And if we didn't, it's on sale anyway. And I think like you can get both the DLCs for like $8 total.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, let's do Remnant 1. Because then, at least get into it and see what it's like. That game is really good. Have you ever played Remnant? Like, it's really good.
I've not really watched much of it. My understanding is that it's kind of Dark Souls like.
A tiny bit. I see where they are coming from with that comparison, but in terms of like gameplay and stuff, it's definitely a shooter. It's a third person shooter.
More like a Left 4 Dead type?
No, it's not like that. So how it works is you have like a hub world, and you touch this crystal to go to the first world is like Earth, and then it's kind of like a big open map, and you're kind of set. You can kind of explore it. There is a path to go, so it's not an open experience like an Elden Ring or something like that. Think of it more like Dark Souls 2, where like you're definitely led a certain way to get to a boss, and then unlocks more stuff. You die pretty quick, so I guess that's where like the Dark Souls comparisons come in. If you're not smart and you take a couple hits, like it gets in crowd control stuff can get bad very quickly in that game.
It sounds like it's probably not a good solo
game. You probably could, because I bet they scale back how many enemies there are.
The more people you have.
But like literally some of the boss fights, the boss just summons like ads, and then the ads will come out and they'll explode if they get close to you, and then you get knocked back, and then another one explodes. It starts to get pretty chaotic, and to the point where it does take a couple tries to figure out like the best way to kill a boss. But the main thing about this game, and from what I was reading about Remnant 2, why I want to play it, is it's basically random, like what happens. So like if you played through the same game, you probably won't see the same bosses or get the same weapons or any of this other kind of stuff.
That's cool.
But yeah, and then certain scenarios play out in different ways where like you literally can't platinum the game on one playthrough, because there's no way you can see everything. And then supposedly when you're done, you re-roll the game and you start over keeping your stuff, and it re-randomizes everything. You actually get to this part that's called like the labyrinth, where you can go to different worlds, and those worlds have different like areas to go to. And then there's like dungeons. There's also like mini puzzles that are around. I did like some kind of reading ahead just to kind of see like what's going on. There's apparently a boss in the game where you can shoot these bells in a certain order to keep him to sleep, and you don't have to fight him. And if you do it,
now that's Dark Souls.
If you do it that way, you get a certain weapon, or if you kill him, you get a different weapon. Or if you knock this boss down and interact with something on him before you kill him, you get something else. So there's different ways to make it play out certain ways. It's pretty cool. Like, it feels really good. I think that's the most important part. Like, the gunplay is actually good. It feels like I'm shooting stuff properly. It's got some weird problems where story progress is only saved by the host, so I can't even go play it by myself, which is kind of a bummer.
That is
and it's also some weird glitching here and there where I can't talk to this certain character anymore, but if I reload it or if we go back out and come back in, it does work.
Do you know if the co-op thing is different in the second one?
I think it's the same.
It's the same. Okay.
Yeah. But apparently the second one has a lot more crazier like worlds and like event things that can happen to you. One of the things I didn't even realize was a puzzle until after was we were in this like world that had like a lot of temples, and there were these like slabs, like stone slabs on the ground. Yeah, I noticed after the fact, like as we were walking them, like some of them would like go down and come back up, and if they went down, like an enemy would spawn. So it's kind of like, okay, stay off the stone slabs because I don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah,
and then it turns out that that's actually a puzzle, and there's a solution for it somewhere else in the level. If you come back and do it, then you unlock the ability to buy a certain set of armor. But it's like but you would never figure that out unless you were paying attention. So it kind of taught me to pay attention to almost everything in the game, because every little thing can be something.
Yeah, that's very Dark Souls.
There's and it's very Dark Souls where like there's NPCs, if you interact with them in a certain way, they'll do certain things. So it definitely has that inspiration. It's definitely like you can tell it's a lower budget game.
Sure,
but
that's not a problem.
It's still I'm enjoying the hell out of it just for what we've played. It really makes me want to play the second one too.
So maybe more like along the lines of like Borderlands, just not
closer
zany.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
That's the word I was thinking of.
It's definitely not weird. It's dark as hell. Like it's
Nobody
all about
wearing
like,
underwear on their head, screaming at you for 10 minutes.
There's definitely stuff where, people are dying and you can get infected by this root stuff.
Okay.
Dark Souls 2 is probably the thing it's closest to.
Dark Souls 2. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of Bloodborne put in there, but you do have a melee weapon, but it's I don't know. It's not that big of a deal.
It's not what you want to use.
No, it's more for like if you're getting overwhelmed. But you can upgrade all your gear, weapons, armor, all that stuff. There's different classes, so you have different abilities. What's really cool about the game is you unlock so leveling up, you don't really level up. You get these things called traits. Which then you can put like skill points into. And the way to get traits is you have to earn them in the game, but they don't tell you how to do it. Certain things will happen where it's just like you learn this trait. So like one of them is like if you get downed and you get revived a whole bunch. That's a trait where it's like hard to kill or something like or bleed out or something like that. And then from now on, every time I go down, I have a longer time to be down.
Yeah. Okay.
Or stuff like that. Or like there's one boss where when you kill it, you learn reload speed up. So I can put points into that. But you might not see that boss in your playthrough.
Does this game have like a crazy wiki, like Dark Souls style?
I haven't gone that far. I've read some stuff, but it's hard to get through because of the way that the game is structured. Because you might not even experience this, so it's hard to understand where to go. One of the traits I found was funny was the game has friendly fire, so there's a trait for actually like killing your party members too much. You'll earn a trait for that. But
that's good.
Yeah, it's cool. So it's got this like weird element of discovery to it where doing certain actions will lead to certain things. Yeah, it's a great game. It's really fun. It's 3-player co-op, which was perfect for us. But
is the new one also 3-player?
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
Oh, so we're gonna get through this, and then whenever Remnant 2 is on sale, I'll just grab that.
I was gonna say whatever. It's probably not.
Well, I won't want to play it back to back anyway. So
I even myself, like I've never marathon the Dark Souls games back to back. So.
I don't like to do that kind of stuff anyway. Other things I played, just little quick things. There's a new Puzzle Quest game for PlayStation. I guess it's been out for a couple months. It's free to play.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
I was gonna say I haven't tried it because I feel like it's probably bad.
It's a mobile game blown up to work on a PlayStation. Yeah, I was gonna say
as a big fan of Puzzle Quest 1 and 2.
Well, I played through
which are not,
I played through the Marvel one on PlayStation. That one was okay. It's not even as good as the mobile one is.
Okay,
this is worse. It's slow.
Okay.
Obviously, it's microtransaction to hell, but you don't have to if you don't want to, which is good.
It just takes forever.
It just takes forever. I finally unlocked like auto battle, so maybe that'll help me get through some of it more. But we'll see. And then the other thing I tried, I did try that Tower of Fantasy game.
That was the game I was most interested.
Because I had to see, because I like Genshin a lot. I'm waiting for Star Rail.
I'm waiting for Star Rail.
This is kind of like in the middle of that. I'm like, let's give it a shot. I will tell you, I can't really give you a good impression of how that game plays because I can't play it because there is no option to invert the camera.
Okay.
It will. There's literally no option anywhere in that game to invert the camera. To play. It makes it unplayable for me. I cannot. I cannot play it. I'm always looking at the ceiling or looking at the ground. I can't figure it out. My brain is 30 years or however long
of doing that.
Yeah, I just can't. Okay. So that is on hold until they patch that in, which
all right.
I hope they will. I got as far as making my character, but then when it started to be like running around, I'm like, I just can't do it.
I would think Star Rail would be out before the end of this year on PlayStation.
Should be.
You think they want to get that out like fast? Should be, because they want to make money.
And then the last thing, real quick, I'll just talk about it here. Is I did finish Twisted Metal pretty much like right after we talked about it last time. That show gets a hell of a lot better towards the end of it.
Okay.
Nice. It's for the first like 5 episodes that I watched, it was a pretty slow burn, and then it starts to get into backstories for each of the characters. So like, he gets a backstory about who he is and why he can't remember stuff.
Anthony Mackie.
That's actually really helpful. She gets a backstory about what happened. Sweet Tooth gets a backstory for why he's a psychopath. Like, that might have happened before, but like, it actually starts to build to something. And then like they introduce characters from the games, and then he actually builds the correct car, which is his correct car from the game. That's why, because I kept saying like, he's not a character from the game because he doesn't make sense of who he's supposed to be. And then eventually he does. And then and then finally you get some car combat, which is satisfying to watch.
Who is he supposed to be, or is that a spoiler?
He is John Doe from Twisted Metal.
He is. Okay.
But he didn't have his car, and that was the weirdest part about it. But they did this whole episode about his car and those other stuff, and then eventually has Roadkill, which is the car he's supposed to have.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then like as they introduce other characters, like the one character is the girl who drives the F1 car. That actually happens at some point. And then the best part of that whole thing is, and it's weird now because you don't know if it's going to happen. It sets up a season 2 pretty hard, and it's basically setting up what you would think is Twisted Metal. They literally talk about like there's a tournament. Here's all the people that we're getting for the tournament, and it's all of the characters
That's
so
cool.
it's like,
okay.
And apparently, reading stuff about it now, like it is very popular, and it's like their best streaming comedy ever.
It is the number one, I think, original now.
Yeah, so
Peacock original.
I think provided this strike stuff works out, I could see this getting to season 2, and I hope it does, because it actually gets far better. You just have to get there. That's the worst part.
Yeah,
which is true for a lot of shows.
It's on my list of something to get to, but I mean, again, I got time since this strike. It's not like we're going to begin a season 2 tomorrow.
I don't think that's one of those things like they'll ever take away, just because it is like they're one of their most popular things. It's pretty good.
No, anything now that like really makes it, unless they were to say, hey, we're canceling this, there's no reason for them to take it down.
Yep.
So
okay, that's it for me though.
That's it for you. What about you, Matt?
All right, let's dive right in. So I finished out Diablo.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna hold off on playing any more of it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because as we discussed, as me and Dan mentioned, season 1, the idea behind it is cool, but retrospect, it's like it's not worth the battle pass to start playing it. You know what I mean? So I think I'm gonna hold off on that and move towards doing other things, and then when season 2 comes out, I'll peep that and see what it's like.
Okay.
I might kind of go back and forth to it less periodically, but it's not anything that's on my wheel well now that I've actually beat it.
Yeah.
I'm still playing Pikmin 3.
Okay.
So no change there. Nothing. If you play Pikmin 1 or Pikmin 2, it's really nothing crazy.
I will probably pick up that collection in September just to have it.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested as someone who's never played a Pikmin.
They were both good games. Like I remember playing through both of them before. But yeah, it's like Pikmin. It's a good game. It's entertaining. It's nice. It's kind of cool to see how the combat system works in it. I'm just looking forward to getting through more of it, seeing that.
Yeah.
I also started playing Gunman Clive. I know you asked about that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
So Gunman Clive was originally like a phone game, like an Android game. It's like a side-scrolling game that came out, I think, back in like the early 2010s.
Okay.
And so they released a HD collection of 1 and 2 on the Switch.
Okay.
And
that's cool.
I caught it when it was like on like a flash sale or something like that. It was super cheap. Like it's not really an expensive game, but it was already cheap at that point. And I was like, you know what, let's give it a shot. And I played a little bit of it when I first bought it, and then I kind of put it down.
Sure.
And I was kind of looking for something to play that's not serious, but just could kind of be entertaining. So I picked it back up, and I actually started kind of like playing more of it. And it's actually not bad. It's it's nothing to rave about. It's not like, game of the year or anything like that. But it's entertaining to the point where I kind of like put it in that boat of like the Vampire Survivor.
Okay.
Where it's just something fun to play. Nothing crazy. It doesn't have your brain working extra or anything like that.
Or possibly like the next game on your list, which I have played.
Or possibly like the next game in my list,
which I have played.
Broforce Forever. Yeah, I was super stoked that they redid it, like re-released it.
So it's got like
a couple more people to it.
So I installed it when we talked about it earlier this week. And then I was like, I looked at it because I'm like, boy, it sounds familiar. And I told my girlfriend, because she's a big fan of that game. She played a ton of it on the PlayStation when it came out. Good. But it is like an ultimate edition of Broforce, basically. Yeah, so they have extra maps and extra characters that weren't in the original version, but it's out on Game Pass. I installed it. I messed with it a little bit. I mean, it's Broforce. So
yeah, it's super funny.
Really, really good.
I enjoy it just for the name puns.
Yeah, they're good. They're very well done.
They're very well done. I am, I think, like 33% into it right now.
Okay.
I've been playing since it dropped. So I played maybe about like a good hour every morning of it. And it's Broforce. It's a it's a 2D shooter pixel game. It's funny as hell.
It is.
I will say this: there is something interesting they put into it. Like when I was on like level 4, level 5, there was like a backstory to one of the bad guys that I didn't remember from the first one.
Okay,
and it like took me by surprise. But it was
they might have added them. Funny.
Yeah, I think they did because it was hella funny. I'm not even gonna lie; like it had me rolling for a little while.
That's good.
But yeah, it's Broforce. It's fantastic. I played it on the PlayStation, and when I saw it was coming to Game Pass, I was like, well, let me go ahead and just download it because, like you said, this is like the ultimate edition.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not going to pay for it if I got it for Game Pass, so I'm not worried about it. Then I actually saw that I watched SummerSlam last week, or this past weekend.
Yeah, I did too.
And I saw that they actually said WWE 2K23 was free to play this weekend.
Yeah.
And so I jumped on that and I downloaded it and I started playing through that.
Okay.
It definitely is a lot smoother than 22, I think.
22? Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get too much into it. Like I played a good set of matches like I normally do. But I didn't get into career mode or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I know right now it's like 45% off, I actually think.
Was it free to play on both systems or?
I don't think so. I think it was only free to play on Xbox.
Xbox, okay.
Yeah. So I think I might pick it up because, like I said, at 45% off, that's a pretty decent deal.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
So, like the complete edition is only $54, and it's a thought process right now that I'm getting into.
Okay.
So I might pick that up and kind of play through it. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I
enjoyed playing the career mode of the one last year. So.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with it too.
I would like for it to just hit like. I feel 25. Like someday it'll be 20 or 25.
20 to 25. Sure. Like my Black Friday.
That's why I'm kind of hesitant too. Like I really do want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's everything that I've gotten my hands on.
And if you're telling me it's a smoother experience than 22, then I'm excited to play it at some point because
I feel like it was there was some rough experience.
I mean, not that 22 is bad, that's probably the best it had been up to that point, but there were definitely some parts of it that were rough around the edges. So
there's always like some things that you just can never figure out. Yeah.
For sure.
So, and especially in a world where, everything I've heard about the AEW game is not great. Mm-hmm. So, which I kind of want, like, that's the other one, like, that hits like the $15-$20 mark. I would like to at least try it.
I would buy AEW for $20. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to see.
I'm interested. I need to watch video on that because I'm interested to see how that battle royale.
Yeah, that thing looks ridiculous.
Works on there.
Yeah,
because I thought that was weird. I was like, why would you put this in a wrestling game? But I mean,
that's probably the wrestling game to put it in. Yeah,
that's what I was about to say. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Well, we can kick it over to news. We got a bit of news here. We'll kick it off with the first thing we got here, which really isn't a surprise, honestly, but reportedly Nintendo plans to release its next-gen console during the second half of next year. That's kind of been rumored for a long time.
That seems about right. Right? Like,
I think the thing that's more surprising coming out of this report is that the screen is going to be an LCD screen again and not an OLED.
That's a bummer.
But you figure it is a bummer considering like the OLED is definitely an upgrade. So, but it is essentially to keep costs down, and
it's got to be a trade-off, right, for processing power and everything else that they'll have to.
And it's still also that it is unclear if it's going to be backwards compatible. Still, I mean, it obviously will.
It has to be.
I don't see a way in which it isn't.
No,
but that timeline totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for sure, we sold them back when they came out when I worked there. So
you and I were still there.
Yes.
And we lived through the Switch launch.
Yes.
So which is crazy to think that system is still going strong 6 years later. So
and it's just one of those things where like it has to be essentially the same system as it is now. Like you can't get away from this anymore. Imagine if they made this where it was like it's handheld only. Like no, they can't.
You think they call it the Switch U?
Oh God, no! I think at this point they have to have better people on staff that are better at naming stuff than that.
I would hope so too. So, but yeah, again, that timeline totally makes sense. I'm sure. If I were to guess, what I would think is like somewhere either late fall or early spring, you'll get like what they did last time. Like, you know what? Here's a trailer of what it is.
Oh, when they put out and that, like, here's the Switch.
And I think they keep it, and I think they keep it at that short 6-month window again, too. Because they're not into, like, the long, like, hey, this is coming out a year from now. Like, they like that short window.
Not anymore. And the other thing, too, is, like, if this is just, like, an upgrade over the current one, but functionality is kind of the same, they won't even put that much into it to be like, hey, this is a brand new thing. They'll be like, this is the newer version of it. Like they won't be as.
It's very possible it could just be like a new Nintendo 3DS situation, where it's like new Nintendo Switch. Hey, it runs at 1080p now,
right?
Or whatever.
The resolution's upgraded.
Totally what it is.
It's got more storage inside. The screen
frame rates are better.
Yeah, frame rates are better. Whatever. It's stable.
But you got Zelda running at 60 now. That's the dream.
Still got all the games you want. So there you go.
So yeah, that's kind of what I think it's gonna be. I'd be surprised if it's really Nintendo's never done like a huge jump. So
they do.
Not like insane though. Like the other systems, like it's usually a moderate. Like think of like GameCube to Wii.
Well, their huge jump was always
motion.
The way you played.
Yeah.
Their huge jump was you went from a relatively normal game system to motion controls.
Yeah.
To a tablet.
to a hybrid
system.
Yeah.
But where could you possibly go from here that isn't backwards?
Yeah, you cannot Nintendo cannot put out a system now that isn't a hybrid. Because
I don't think so.
Their business forever until this system was here's a home console, here's a handheld.
Right.
They've combined those. So like there's no way and you can't go back and be like, "Oh, well, here's a handheld and here's like
but people aren't going to want the most surprising part is they combined them, it didn't mess that up.
No,
they could have easily made a huge mistake when they did that.
Yeah.
Cuz they've made mistakes before. But,
and the other thing I'll give them credit to too is like they kind of had a hard line when they got to the point where like, okay, 3DS is done now.
Yeah, it's over.
You want to play these games, get a Switch.
Mm-hmm.
So, which we'll be talking about the hard line in a little bit here with other systems. But why don't you? Because you put this. I think did I put this in here? Or did you put this in? I don't know. But maybe I did.
I think you did. I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's more talk about remaking Final Fantasy VI.
Sure.
Honestly, we should do it at this point. So, but like the thing about it is I go back and forth with like, okay, so they're, obviously they talk about wanting to remake 6. There's a lot of, I'd say, heavy evidence that maybe they're remaking 9.
9
that's been going around
9
too.
Seems to have more evidence behind it than 6.
6 just seems like it's that one guy being like, I would like to do it, and 9 seems like no, people are actually somewhere working on this.
So it's at least at some stage where it's been thought about and planned about. Well, if we're going to do this, how would we do it?
6, there's a concept art of what your buddy Zane looks like.
Yeah. 6 is more. I think I really like 6. I think that would be good to remake that one. It's just somebody saying that. People would obviously go crazy if 6 was remade, but think about how that would happen in this day and age. Like if they split 7 up into 3 games, they would do the same thing for 6.
They would.
Yeah. And, it's going to be different. And do you want that to be that different? And when the hell would it come out? Like, they're not going to put it out or put out part question. 1 before they finish 7. Because if the whole plan is to have a remake path and the actual path, which who knows what the actual path is anymore. But when does that come out? Does that replace a potential 17?
It could.
Could, right?
I mean, they're not gonna. I especially now, and I can't remember if I put it in the news now. Like they've been so cagey on Final Fantasy 16 and the sales of it. Like they first came out, were kind of touting as a success. Now they're saying it hasn't been as successful, and they're blaming it on only being on the PS5 instead of also being able to be on the PS4. I would assume, or other platforms.
I think it's we other now platforms.
Know. I would assume.
Right.
I think
not being on the Xbox.
Well, I don't even think it means Xbox. I think it means PC.
Probably
because I think they have finally started to realize like there is a point to PC. Remember they didn't for a long time, which is strange because Final Fantasy 7 and 8 are on PC, but I think they have finally realized that like, man, if we could have had this on PC, we probably would have sold a pretty decent amount more.
Yeah.
So it's a weird place because where does they go from, or where does Square go from now? Because, we have the main line, we have the remake line, we have the remaster line, and like Crisis Core, hopefully Tactics.
Let me ask this question. Do you think there is any potential possibility now that, Phil Spencer has come in and made up with Square Enix that they could potentially cut some sort of Final Fantasy 7 like deal for one of these other remakes? Be it 9 or
just
for
them?
Yeah, for them. Just for like
difficult. I don't know. It would have
to. You think it'd be too much?
It would have to be something that's probably not already in development.
But here's the key. I'll throw in there. If they cut that deal, they would A, want it to be on Game Pass, which means B, there would be a PC version that they could also sell on Steam.
I don't know. From Square's point, you have to make that make sense to me. Because if part of the problem now is 16 didn't actually sell well, then it's well, what are we really going to make from it being on Game Pass? You're going to have to cut me a pretty big check, for me to put it on Game Pass.
Or they cut a deal where it's not on Game Pass, but again, the deal is they can put it on PC as well. So, I don't think Microsoft will not give a fuck. If that's on PC, they do not care.
Well, the other thing too is like, it would be hard for me to believe they put it on Game Pass if it was a game that wasn't already out. So like, if it was, let's say it was 17, we'd have to be able to sell it. But if he went in there and was like, okay, we got 16, it's coming, we can put that on Game Pass. Like it would have to be something that they've already made and sold. A bigger get would be to make sure that they're getting Dragon Quest 12. Because
I mean they did get Dragon Quest 11.
Sure, so. But like what they got Final Fantasy 15, so that argument doesn't make any sense. So I think a bigger thing is to make sure that we get everything from now on that's coming out. Aside from obviously the 7 remake stuff, because at this point it's not even beneficial for you to do that. it's more beneficial for you to wait for the whole thing to be out and then take
we've
the
said
whole
before,
thing.
I think what happens is when it's all done is when it hits Game Pass as a complete package and whatever year that is.
Right. Which is 5 years away, 4 years away.
easily.
Yeah. So but to get back to like a 6 remake, I mean, sure. I mean, that's a hell of a remake because that is going straight from the ground up. You're going from
it is
16-bit to current day. At least with something like 7, it was a 3D game in a 3D world, and we can model that in a different way. We have more ideas of how the world is built.
Same with 9.
9 is even more. I think I would argue is like further along than 7 is in a lot of ways in terms of like how the towns and stuff are built. But God, 9. I would love 9 remade. That game. I don't even know how you would make that game look because like. It's not people in that game; it's creatures.
Yeah.
So
I don't know,
but
it's gonna be interesting.
People love Vivi, man. Imagine Vivi in 4K.
I don't know if I want to.
I don't know if you want to. Imagine.
I don't know if I want to.
Zidane's tail at 4K.
Oh man. This next one I put in here was interesting. That Jet Set Radio Future like spiritual successor game, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Which was, I think that was at like the Nintendo showcase.
Mm-hmm.
It is only an timed exclusive for like 2 weeks, and it's coming to Xbox and PlayStation September 1st. So I just want to put in here because that game looks pretty cool. But it literally within 2 weeks later it's gonna be on everything.
That's cool.
So that's at least something. The next one we have an email about it. It is a very long email, so I'm going to hold that till the emails because of how long the email it is.
Well, it goes into more depth than just this.
It goes into more depth, and I definitely have thoughts on this, but Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which still to this day has technical issues, is in the early stages of development for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So they are actually, and I know exactly what this is. It did not sell the way they wanted it to. It probably didn't even touch sales of the original game. And so the choice here is to go back and somehow Frankenstein a version of this game for 10-year-old platforms. And I don't know, like, when does it stop?
I don't know. It's a weird concept too, because the last time I can remember there being even something like this where like the system gap was a big deal was like
PS2.
When PS2 went to PS3 and like Xbox went to 360, there was that weird like overlap for like a year and a half where they would really try hard to make games on both sides, but they would be different versions of games.
They'd be drastically different versions.
Even stuff like Marvel Ultimate Alliance wasn't the same, and that's a pretty basic game at the time. Like I can't admit why. I get why. You know why. You're right. It's because it didn't sell enough.
It's money,
right?
And
for sure.
PS4 and Xbox, have a much larger install base than PS5.
That's the
and
biggest
Series
thing.
X
They look at how huge that install base is.
There's 100 million PS4s, which
exactly
isn't true, but there's 100 million PS4s. We could maybe recoup some of that, and the game's already made. So how can we just find a way to make it work? But that can literally mean like cutting content.
I mean, I didn't throw it in the news here, but I just read today like Call of Duty this year still coming to PS4 and Xbox One
as long as possible.
It's going to be as long as possible. So, but we're going to put a pin in that and come back to it when we get to emails because I'll have a lot more to say when we get to that. So Vampire Survivors, Game of the Year 2022 for me. Supposedly has a director's cut that has been seemingly confirmed with 10 new characters and, as they said, 300 chickens, which I don't sure. But the other thing I wanted to point out here is this next week, the 17th, that co-op mode is out. The game also comes out on Switch. So if you somehow have not played Vampire Survivors yet and you own a Switch, that would be a fantastic way to play the game. So, but this director's thing, they don't really have, there wasn't really much more to say. They had an event and some people saw something leaked in that event. I'm sure at some point they will talk about it. But right now it seems like everything about that game is surrounding this co-op mode, which looks fantastic. So that is something I'm totally going to try. And I've mentioned it before, but that co-op mode is a free download for other versions of the game. It's just being patched into it, so you don't have to pay anything for the co-op mode. I threw this in here because this is a huge thing this week. Baldur's Gate 3, obviously, as we said at the top of the show, is kind of like taking the gaming world by storm. One of the big controversies around that game, and it's been there for a while, is that there is some sort of problem with the Series S version of this game, which has led that version, like the Xbox port of this game, is delayed completely until next year.
It's the same screen co-op.
It has to be. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it. It's dumb to delay that off of the Series X as well, but whatever. They see that as they like to see that as a unified thing, even though it really isn't.
It clearly isn't if we can't put the same game out on both.
Exactly. I mean, my understanding is when you download a game via whatever system you have, it downloads a different file depending on what system you have. So, but I don't know why, in this case, why we couldn't just be like, well, the Series S version is coming later.
Yeah, well, we're working on it. But I think it's because they don't want it to seem like
they want it to have parity.
They don't want to give the impression that the Series S is a last-gen system as opposed to
current. Even though it's like a slightly better Xbox One X. So that has an SSD in it. Yeah. So, I mean, even sometimes the Xbox One X outperforms it because that can actually go up to 4K.
Yes, that was the whole point of that system.
Yeah, it's a weird system, but it just continues to be kind of scuttle in the industry about the Series S. With that being said, Baldur's Gate 3 is out. I believe it's like the 2nd of September. I want to say for PlayStation 5,
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Digital only, which, it'd be cool if they made a physical copy of it, like I said, but it is what it is.
Eventually.
The biggest controversy and hot button topic of this week, though, has been the Red Dead Redemption announcement.
So stupid.
So it's been rumored for a long time that Red Dead Redemption, they're doing something with it. We've had all these trademarks. We've seen logos. Basically, it's been announced it is a port of the PS3 version of the game. So it is not a remaster. It's not a remake.
You saw they're not even calling it. It's not a port. It's a conversion.
It's a conversion. That's right. Version. So they've even I even saw a comparison video to the Series X backwards compatible Red Dead where that runs better.
Yeah.
Than the trailer because it's a better version of the game.
It's an optimized for that system.
It actually runs at native 4K. So. It's dumb. The biggest thing about it is the $50. It is so they're putting this out PS4 and Switch. It's not coming to Xbox because you can already play a better version of it there. It is $50, which is ridiculous for what it's for the little amount of work that they're doing.
Remember, they're trying to push it as well. You get on the Nightmare, but you also don't get the multiplayer.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So it has none of the multiplayer aspect, which I'll also say. You can still play that multiplayer on the Xbox One, backwards compatible version of the game, which is crazy.
It's going to be up for as long as they can keep it up. Yeah,
that multiplayer was really good back in the day. So, but we did get an email on this. So give me a moment here. We will pull that. Very, very short emails. This actually came in today. From Kendall from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hi, dudes. I was curious what you all think of the controversy surrounding this Red Dead port. It's stupid, right? So, I have two thoughts on it. Number one, the whole port part of it, conversion, whatever you want to call it, it's stupid because it's not what people expected, But on the flip side of it, I think the outrage surrounding it is extreme because at the same time, Rockstar never promised you anything. They never came out and said, we're making this, we're remaking it, we're remastering it. They never once said they are going to do any of those things. And then they just announced, hey, this is what we are doing.
There's a lot of things about this that are maybe it was meant to be more, but then when that Grand Theft Auto thing came out and they fucked it, they were like, why don't we just put it out and then we can just put it out kind of.
Well, that's the other thing I would remind people is granted, it's not the same people that are doing this that did the GTA thing, but look at how disastrous that was for a while.
They had to live through months of bad publicity about that.
who knows if this is going to launch and be okay or not until it actually comes out.
But maybe there were plans for this to be more than it ended up being. And when that happened, they just said, well, screw it. Like, if we can just release it, just release it. But at the same time, like $50 for a not full version of a game.
Ridiculous.
Is not worth it. For a 10-year-old game is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Considering it's routinely on sale on Xbox, the better version of it for like $20 constantly.
Oh, it's usually 10. If you buy the full, like, complete version that has all those DLCs, granted, 5 of those DLCs are for multiplayer, which isn't in this version of the game.
So those DLCs are not in the game.
$10 for, like, the complete edition is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, again, my biggest thing with it is, like, if you do not like this, just don't buy it. Like, I'm not buying it because I think it's dumb.
Well, I have no need for it. And plus, they're not going to care if you buy it or not. They did the least amount of work to put it out.
And then the other thing I'll say on it is, like, there's no PC version of it, which is strange that they wouldn't want to tap that market a little bit.
That's the biggest thing. Like, I think they could have even gotten away with this being $50 if they would have been like, yeah, it's on PC.
Yeah, because that's what people have waited for that. Yeah, for years, and like those people would pay $50.
Who wanted this for a Switch?
That's what. Right? Like, I don't even sitting around going, man, I really want to play Red Dead 1 on my Switch.
When they said it was on Switch, I was like, that's actually the weirder part because I just
is.
It's, and the other thing is, like, it's a PS4, not a PS5 game. There's no PS5 like enhancements to it. It is just like the bare minimum of what they could have possibly done.
And then on top of it, you have the Take-Two CEO coming out and saying that the port pricing is commercially accurate. So
really not
scummy.
Really not.
Just don't buy the fucking game.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's our reaction. Just don't buy it.
They don't. Well, they don't care about Red Dead as a franchise anyway. Like 2 came out, and they almost forgot about it. They almost forgot about it immediately.
Yeah. They also, I think, for like a month, thought maybe they would have a second GTA Online.
Right. It didn't even get close.
And it didn't even get close because nobody wanted to switch over
cars.
to that.
Yeah.
There's no cars, so that kind of
flying motorcycles on Red Dead too.
Cars, planes.
But yeah. So next big hot news story. WrestleQuest has been delayed at the last minute, literal hours before it was set to launch, due to what was it, a game-breaking bug?
There's a game-breaking bug in it where I read
progress.
I read the major review that came out. GameStop came out and gave it a 4 out of 10, which man,
damn.
But he ran into a bug where he literally couldn't progress to a certain point, and since the game's autosave is bad, he had to reload an hours ago manual save.
That sucks.
So. I mean, the review was not good. It honestly sucked a lot of the hype I had for it out, like, completely.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a bummer.
Well, because the major problems he had with it weren't even like necessarily the bug, but like the gameplay isn't good. It's all quick time events. It gets stale pretty quick. Like, that kind of drags the whole thing down for me. But yeah, that got pulled 0 out. I mean, they sent him a review code and let him put a review up, and then it got pulled.
Yeah, it was weird because I literally woke up that morning and saw the news article. I was like, I'm pretty sure that game was supposed to be out today, and then I had to go look. Like, yeah, it was. They pulled it like literal hours before. So, other big, I wouldn't really say this is earth shattering, but with that Take-Two earnings call where you had that CEO making that accurate pricing or whatever comment, they have also basically confirmed by projections of like their earnings a window of release for GTA 6, because in the window that where the game probably would release, it's quite a significant increase in money they're expecting. So why would that be? So it's not surprising. It makes sense. So if I were to guess, I'd say fall 2024 sounds like
it seems right.
Seems it's time, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
for sure.
You want to have it out before Christmas, I would say. Like some games we talk about where it's like if it comes out in January, February, whatever. But GTA, but if you put GTA out and you say it's coming out November 29th or something,
you're gonna have things like Call of Duty move out of the way.
It immediately becomes the game everyone asks for Christmas. It sells systems because we have to assume this is next gen only. In 2024, a game like Grand Theft Auto 6 better be next gen only.
It has to be.
But it's a system seller if it is. Historically, like, you know, Sony will pay for the marketing.
Absolutely.
They'll get something bonus on it, but it's going to be the game of next year. Like you said, things will move out of the way. Things won't want to come out a week before or after that game.
No, unless we're talking they'll move a month out of the way.
Unless it is a radically different game. Because we've talked about that before too. Like, there are certain games that can come out the same day because they have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about it a lot because for different reasons, but like Mortal Kombat, Portal, and SOCOM all came out on the same day. That's fine. They're all wildly different games. They appeal to different people. But Grand Theft Auto it appeals to almost everyone that has a PlayStation 5, right? Almost everyone.
It does. Pretty much.
Even if they're 8 and they want mommy to buy them the car racing game, that's what the game they want for Christmas.
Well, to piggyback off that, we do have an email from Mark from Rochester, New York. It says, "Hey dudes, do you think GTA 6 may actually come out next year? With all the Rockstar news from the Take-Two investors call, it really sounds like they are expecting a huge growth with their next fiscal year, especially in that fourth quarter. Are we looking at the potential huge release of GTA 6? And do you think the game is still be a true current gen only experience?" Thanks.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the thing, like, up until this Star Wars news, I would have told you 100% without question it has to be. I'd still say I'm like 90% there, because if there's one game that can get anybody that doesn't have a system to go, oh, I'll buy a PlayStation for that, or I'll buy an Xbox for that, it's Grand Theft Auto.
At that point, we're also 5 years in on these systems. If it's next year, we're 5 years in.
Because even your average Call of Duty fan or Madden
or 2K,
person, that crowd of people that are still holding on to their PS4 because they don't have a reason to upgrade. They keep making the games. They see a commercial for Grand Theft Auto 5. Oh, 6. I can't get that on Grand Theft Auto 6. I can't get that on PS4. Yeah, they're going to go buy a PlayStation for that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think that's I think it's also the last ditch hope.
It's as close. It's as close as you can get to. It's as close as you can get to like a system seller these days.
I would also think by November of 2024, we can't be still talking about PS4, right? It's 4 years into this console cycle.
There'll still be stuff trickling out for sure.
Like very small things, but like sports titles and stuff. But still,
I don't know. I think these days with the way shovelware works, and it's, again, if PS4 has the largest install base of all, we'll make a PS4 copy of it too. Because the other argument is so many games are buy it for PS4, you get it for PS5. So, but Grand Theft Auto as a game will suffer if it is made for PS4.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're at a point now where Grand Theft Auto 5 is on PS5, but that was a PS3 game.
I think that's the thing a lot of people forget. The GTA 5 came out
a very long time ago,
2 months before those other systems launched. And was a phenomenal achievement for the 360 and PS3.
But even then, it didn't come out on PS4 and Xbox One for a while.
For a year.
And remember when it came out, they were like, oh, by the way, this version is kind of different. We added animals. Yeah. We added this and that. And we could do so much more.
And that was part of what made it fun to me. Because I remember originally I was like, I don't need to get that again. And then it was like, no, this is kind of different. We've upgraded the shit out of this.
This is what the game should have been. But you can't make GTA 6 different versions on these two systems. It's got to be.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to have parity.
It's got to be between them. Well, and the other thing is what we've talked about it multiple times, so we won't get into it again. But what are we going to do with online? Is there a second online game? And it's possible, based on the other news that came out, for what they bought.
Yeah, which the other news, Rockstar acquires the makers of the GTA 5 role-playing server, which is a huge thing.
That's huge.
So that's a huge thing for them to go and be like, hey, we're gonna fold you into what we're
gonna
doing.
Have you work on this for
exactly.
I've never played it, but I've watched a bunch of it, and
I have
that stuff is incredibly interesting.
It is really interesting. It is.
But the thing is that just that mod shows you there is a huge market for that, and if they could make that accessible, I think there would be. You would have a lot of people playing because it sounds dumb, but man, you could just play that game as a garbage man if you want to. That's dumb as hell. Yep. I kind of love that. You know what I mean? There's something about picking a job and you just working that job in that world.
Do you think what do you think about the scenario where GTA 6 launches, but it doesn't launch like GTA 5 launched? It doesn't launch with an online component right away. Fine.
Yeah.
And it comes later, but it's just, hey, here's a new version. It's not necessarily GTA Online 2. It's just, here's the new version of it.
Here's my ideal of what would happen. Okay. So GTA 5 already exists on PS5. Sure. You can continue to play that. You can continue to play that online on PS5 as long as you want. We're not going to turn it off because it makes too much money. We're not turning it off.
Well, that's the real reason.
6 comes out. No multiplayer for a month. Because if you want to, you can play 5 online multiplayer still if you want. And plus, it encourages people to actually play through the story they're making for 6. They want people to do that. And then maybe the online for 6, maybe the major function of that is it's role play stuff. Okay. What if that's what the 6 multiplayer is? Is instead of you kind of playing out with the people from the story, we drop you into a server with, because what does GTA 5 tap out at 30 people?
I think so. This could roughly around there.
This could be 100, 60 to 100 people, and it's you get a job and you run around and that is an option you can play. I would play that more than I would play the GTA 5 multiplayer, because the GTA 5 multiplayer, all I ever really wanted to do eventually was the heist stuff with my friends.
Yeah,
I didn't really care about the rest of it. Mm-hmm. But if I could just be a garbage man, or maybe that game has a weird thing where you could be a football player and there's a football game in it. I mean, they built a whole fucking golf game into it. They could do
I saw that.
A baseball game or something. So that's the thing. It's this game is just going to be so much larger than what 5 is, and that's hard to even comprehend.
Yeah, and that's the part I look at and go, there's just no way that something like that would work on an older system. So the only way I could potentially see this coming out and working on PS4 and Xbox One is if it's just the single player component. And then they say, if you want to play this new version of the online, you can port everything over. Because one thing about it is whatever they do with online, you will have to carry whatever you have over. There's no way they're going to cut that off and be hey, the 10 fucking years of GTA Online you've played, we're glad you had a great time.
I don't even think they have to, because that version still exists.
Okay.
It's not going to turn off, because remember, that's also a separate game now.
Yeah,
you can just have that. So there is no reason to move progress over when that wouldn't actually make sense in the context of this whole new multiplayer thing could work entirely different. And we've given you 10 years to build your rank on the other thing. You don't realistically, starting over is fine, because it's something new. You're making a new person. You're playing in a different town,
especially if it has the role play.
If it has role play features, if it's completely different, then transferring progress, all it does is hurt. All it does is hurt the game. If I can bring in my $50 million in all of my cars and all this stuff, that just kind of breaks having to play the online of this new game if there's a new version of it.
True.
So I think maybe they'll be here as a gift for playing GTA, because you'll have to link your Rockstar account. We gave you a car, the skin, a weapon, whatever, and then just move on.
Okay.
People should not be angry that they'll have to restart an online component for a new game. It's not the same game.
And it's going to be a different thing. So, but fall 2024, I think that's a
reasonable.
Probably you could.
The first time I could see it coming out.
Could it slip to spring 2025? Sure, it's Grand Theft Auto.
You can do whatever
you want.
Yep.
Do you think, with that being said, do you think that maybe they do any kind of teaser at the Game Awards this year for GTA?
If it's slated for next year, maybe you get something very small.
Very small, like a logo.
I don't think you get logo at best. I don't think you get like any kind of character from it or a map.
Do you think it's like the Elder Scrolls 6 trailer from 6 years ago? Here's the logo.
Maybe it's a little bit more than that. Maybe it actually shows like an NPC in game.
Or those characters that were leaked.
No, I don't think they referenced.
You don't think they even touched that?
I don't think they touched it. I think it would be like an NPC in the game, or like a dog taking a whiz on something because they think that's hilarious. Look how good we think this dog peeing on something.
Look how realistic that piss looks.
Yeah, though. God, look at the piss physics.
PS5.
Yes, that's when I'm buying a PS5.
That's the true power of the PS5.
There you go. There will be Puddlegate all over again.
Oh no.
Assassin's Creed Mirage will have microtransactions because, of course, it will. It's an Ubisoft game.
Yeah,
less and less excited.
To be fair, it's all cosmetic stuff, but every one of these, I think every one of these games since Origins has had this.
Yeah,
at least
they have that, and then they have like the cheats where it's like you can pay to have stuff unmarked on the map and stuff like that.
I just don't know why I'm buying cosmetic stuff for a single player Assassin's Creed game
when I can just it's different for this. Well, it's a little bit different because this isn't like the other one where you unlock armor and stuff all the time.
I know.
Like
this
classic,
is older Assassin's Creed.
But still.
But again, why am I paying for cosmetic stuff for something I'm going to see?
Exactly. You ready to re-pop in 2024 for Lollipop Chainsaw Remake?
Oh, snap.
I forgot that was a thing until that came out.
I forgot that they were remaking it until I saw that article today and was like, oh shit, that's right. Which, I don't know. I enjoyed that game when it came out, but it was a very short, like, it's not a long game at all, but it was an enjoyable experience. So I will play that. I just hope it's not $70.
Oh god.
So if it is, I would wait for sure. The PS5, quote unquote, slim. There's been a leak going on around about it. I don't really. It's hard to tell, like, if it's actually real or not because there's conflicting reports.
Did you see the real or not? Picture?
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
And now it's you can kind of
supposedly it's the disk drive-less version that you can get that attachment that they keep talking about, which just seems like the dumbest thing.
It's not really a slim then that's just a attachment taken off.
We already have that system, but okay.
Yeah.
Like the digital system. I saw you put this in here earlier, and then I added the additional article
because that came out after it.
Yeah, so like some actress or voice actress or something had leaked like potential Borderlands 4 coming out this year, which seems
made no sense at all.
Made no sense.
The movie can't even make it this year, and all of a sudden Borderlands 4 is supposed to be it?
Yeah. Does Borderlands 4 exist? I'm sure it does. Like, they're not going to stop making those. That's Gearbox's cash cow at this point. But I just laughed when I saw that article in it because I opened their document, I looked at it, I was like, boy, that's weird. And then like maybe 5 minutes later, I went on IGN, it was like, oh, this is confirmed, not like real.
No, it was for something else. Oops.
Okay. Because I'm like, oh, like no fanfare at all. How is that going to work?
I was just thinking, like, that seems impossible. That would somehow come out this year.
They have to have some window of pre-orders and hype.
Yeah, because it is their flagship title. Even if 3 wasn't very good.
If you were to tell me, hey, I might see a Borderlands 4 trailer at the Game Awards this year, I would believe that. Yeah, that's not coming out this year.
Would you agree that maybe the Game Awards could be a Borderlands 4 trailer and the movie trailer?
Absolutely, especially since that movie is next year now.
Right. So that's a perfect place to put the movie trailer.
It's funny because when I finally mentioned something about that movie to our mutual friend Ross the other day, I was like, boy, they haven't talked about that movie for a while. And then it was like the very next day, somebody was talking about that movie. Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's delayed till 2024. That's weird.
Yeah, because
it just seems like that movie fell off the grid for so long.
But that's probably the perfect place to release a trailer for that. And
that's what I would say too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This was kind of cool. There was an event today for THQ Nordic where they announced, I thought They announced a bunch of cool shit. There's one thing that I know.
Shockingly okay thing. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, there's one thing that Matt's really excited about. We'll get to it. Actually, it's the first thing on here. So this has been rumored for a while, so I'm not surprised it finally got announced. But the TMNT Last Ronin video game adaptation has finally been announced. It's been rumored for a while. It is made by the people that remade Destroy All Humans 1 and Destroy All Humans 2, which I'm indifferent on that. I played the first Destroy All Humans remake. It was fine. So I think this is probably a ways out because they don't even, that trailer shows nothing.
Yeah.
And then a concept photo. But there's the new South Park game is a cooperative multiplayer game based around having a snow day. Like the kids are like throwing snowballs and shit at each other. It actually looked all right.
It looks fun.
But
I mean,
it looks fun.
What is it in terms of like,
I need to see
how
more
long
of it.
could that last? Yeah.
The 2019, I'll put this out there again. The 2019 announced Gothic 1 remake got a new trailer today. No release date still. My personal favorite announcement from this showcase, Titan Quest 2 officially announced. Titan Quest 1, and this will take you in the Wayback Machine here, is a game I played countless hours of on PC pre-Steam. So I'm talking like PC game disc in the drive, like back in the day. I got really heavily invested. That for me, that was like my Diablo at the time. I played a shit ton of Titan Quest, especially online with like buddies. So I'm excited for this. I watched the trailer. It's all CG, so there's nothing really to discuss there. And then they also showed 2 new trailers for Alone in the Dark. Which is coming out in October, each with each character, because there are 2 playable characters. There's Edward Carnby, played by David Harbour, and then the girl is played by the girl from Killing Eve, Emily Hartwood. Emily Hartwood is the name of the character. So that game continues to look fantastic. So I look forward to that. There was some other stuff they announced. There's an RTS game called The Last Train Home. I don't really have much to say about that. And then another game called Outcast. Is this what I was trying to figure out? I don't think it's the one, like, there's some game I keep hearing about, people talk about, that's like this big MMO type game.
I don't think this is it.
It's not Outcast. Okay. I can't think of what that thing's called. And then again, there was a lot of other like little things. There's Trine 5. That's coming at some point. I'm just kind of scrolling through it. But again, a lot of other small things. But there were like several pretty big announcements, I thought, or like average size announcements. That like Titan Quest 2 for me is great. Matt, you're getting TMNT out of this.
Thank gosh.
I think like I would say for South Park, I want to see more. Like I wouldn't say I'm excited about it. I need to know what it is.
Yeah.
The trailer did show gameplay,
but I still haven't got through the Fractured Butthole.
I did play both. I think the Stick of Truth was better.
Those are still both good. They're both good games for what those are. Like making a South Park RPG, like you never would have told me before you made that was a good idea. And then I was like, well, they're really good.
So, and then finally, I did put it in here. We don't really need to go over it again, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is going to be on last gen consoles. I guess I did throw it in here at the end, but for those people. So
yeah, I mean, as long as it can.
Now, before we get over to emails, I'm going to kick it over to you, Dan. You have some more GameStop store reviews this week.
We'll read some 1-star reviews. We'll go. We'll just pick, another store that was in our district and just read some lovely 1-star reviews just for fun. So these are.
So what's the oldest one?
Well, so this is Yelp. I'll read a couple of these.
Okay.
There are some there's one from 2012, which is pretty good.
Okay.
Because that would have been, again, this is a store in our district. That was right after I took over my store. Okay. But these are good because these are just, people complaining. And I'll take out names when necessary. But
yeah.
So this is from 2012. I really hate going into these buildings. The only time I push myself to walk into a GameStop is if there's a sale going on. The worst part I always dread about the whole trip is going to the register. I just like constantly being pressured into pre-ordering some game and signing up for their yearly subscription. And then the other part that really annoys me about this place is the trade-ins. I rarely trade in games, only when I really hate it. And of course, they lowball you for your products. And this is funny because that's the number one complaint you hear about from everybody from like trade stuff. This person actually puts in parentheses, it is a business and they're trying to make a profit, even if it's 100% pure profit from used games. Like, yes, that is the business model. That is the whole point.
You got it.
Yeah, you figured it out. You're one of the few people who know it. But when they tell you the value of your games and take money off your game because it's scratched and there's a restoration fee, yeah, like, again, you're hitting it here. When I go to buy used games, especially 360 and PS2, they're complete trash. Why is there a restoration fee on my trade-ins and other pre-owned games that are bought and been restored? There's a lot of reasons that happens at stores, but a lot of times people are lazy. Yeah, there's a 30-day guarantee, but with gas is $4 a gallon. So wow, even 11 years ago, there was still $4 a gallon. I'm not driving back anytime soon. It's usually my problem on games that are less than $15. If it's more than that, the difference between a new and a used copy is always less than $5. Pretty true. So I choose a newest copy so I don't have to stress. I'm sticking to Amazon and Best Buy on occasion. So even 11 years ago, this guy cracked the code and still had a problem with it. Here's a couple good ones that specifically reference employees. I'll leave their names out because I know them. But a box of my video games were stolen, so I called GameStops near me to see if they were sold or seen there. This is actually something that did happen sometimes. Like, people would call us. They're like, somebody stole some stuff. Did anybody trade stuff in there? We're like, I wish I could help you, and you have to file a police report. Like, there's the thing. Literally nothing I can do to help you with that. No. Now, if you call the police and tell them, and the police call me, then I can kind of check stuff, and then I can get stuff sent aside. That actually happened, I think, once or twice, where like the cops had to come and take stuff, which means nothing to me. I just have to fill out a form. But this does happen. But pro tip for anybody listening, you need to file a police report. You have to actually call the police. These games have very distinct markings on all of them, so they must have written all over their stuff. The store leader today was not willing to help. She was not willing to ask other staff if they had seen these. She was unwilling to let me know when a manager is free to speak to me regarding these. No one is. Inform me that a police report needs to be filed, which it already was. So if you already did, then the police need to call me. And then it says, I'm not sending the police on a wild goose chase. That's their job. It isn't hard to ask employees to see if they've seen these distinctly marked games.
They will come into the store. Like, the cops will do it because we had it happen.
It happened multiple times. I got no problem, but we have to do this correctly, man. What if I call the GameStop today and say, hey, man, somebody stole my Final Fantasy 16. Did anybody sell it to you?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah, they did. Oh, that's fine. I'm going to come get it. It's not how it works.
Exactly.
But then he says, every other place I called, including this other store, was more than willing to help. Chances are, if you called me and said, like, my name is written all over it, did this happen? And I remember seeing that happen, I'd be like, yeah, they did. Send the police here. But I'm not going to take time out of my day to ask everybody and all this other stuff. Like, I don't have time for that. It's not the first time I've been met with unfriendly this particular GameStop. They limit the number of used games I can buy on sale, while other GameStops will let me continue buying. That is weird.
I don't know who's doing that.
And this is even a cap on the same game. It's a cap as a whole. Will not be returning. Do not recommend. Why would I ever limit someone to how much they could buy on used games?
That doesn't make sense.
Please buy used games. How many do you want? You want 30? Take them all. Get them out of here.
That's a weird
one. Just wanted to trade several games for cash, and the girl wanted to deny my trade in because she said she had to walk to the safe, which is like 2 feet away, and grab cash. Lazy and rude. I'm a big spender at this location. If I want to trade 7 games, I should be able to with no problems. I'm going to a different location for now. And then it says I miss the previous store leader's name. Walk to the safe doesn't even make sense because the safes are all on time locks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what she meant, but yeah, I mean, I know I have to wait for the safe to open. It was generally as far as it would ever get. On very rare occasion, you would literally have to tell people, like, I literally don't have enough money to do that. That might have happened a couple times. Like, if you got hit really hard, like when the store opened, Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, I literally don't have anything to do that. I can call the other store and see. But even then, it's like you didn't want to do that because you didn't want to be like, yeah, the other store's got $1,200 in cash just waiting. Go get it.
Hey, man. I remember our, wonderful DL at the time just with his comment of you should just have a goal to be negative all the time.
Yeah, so I can't ever do anything with cash.
Exactly.
I can't ever make change.
Exactly. Like that doesn't make any sense.
No, I need to have some money in the store to function.
Yeah.
Because the problem with it is if you ever went negative, it was very hard to pay it back because I would have to get cash. The company doesn't come with the Brinks truck and refill my cash every day.
No, you have to go down to the bank.
No, I'm dependent on people spending it because remember, I can't take cash out of the bank. Like if I go negative, if I go super negative, there could be days I don't have cash.
Yeah.
Which would happen when we would actually get like under a certain amount. It would take a couple days to get back to normal. Here, let's go to some Google reviews for this one real quick.
You should do that daily though.
Went to the store today and they had a sign that said "Be back in 30 minutes." Who runs a retail business like this? GameStop does in 2023, man. Like,
yeah.
I even had to do that a couple times when I was working there.
I had that happen to me. I told you back in May when I went to cancel that Diablo or whatever. Like I rode over to the one by me on a Sunday, and literally that was a sign in the door. It was like, "Be back in 30."
Okay.
I came back in 30. They were there.
They got to take breaks, man. Like, remember, a lot of these stores are one person working all day, open to close.
Yeah.
They have to take a break. For a long, long time, you just wouldn't take a break at GameStop, remember?
Yeah.
You just never would. Never have lunch,
they have to enforce that now.
Well, they had to enforce it then, too, and never did. Let's see here. Went in looking for a specific fun code that my friends said looked really similar to me. I think she said she was the manager, but she was just terribly rude and short with me, which was awful coming from a manager. Thankfully, someone else was super nice to look for me, but didn't find anything, but was just overall better experience than the manager. That's a good one. It's a long one. We'll skip that. Store manager is super disrespectful, not to mention I heard so many bad things she does. Really surprised that GameStop would allow her to go against so many rules. Shows how GameStop has really become an unreliable company, especially because they don't know anything about it. Heard even so many bad things about this particular GameStop from other GameStops too. No one bothers to do anything. She treats disabled workers like they're worthless, only cares about herself. If I could give 0 stars, I would. Honestly, hope they get sued by a former employee. That sounds like someone who used to work there.
Probably.
Oh my God. What's this one? When PS5 pre-order was released, I was on my way in, and to save some time, I called and was put on hold right away. Needless to say, when I pulled up, the store was empty and 2 employees were just standing there. This girl that was answered was twirling her thumbs doing nothing. I walked in and said they were sold out. Looking around the store, I could tell not one went to any customer. That's a weird one.
Awesome.
But, again, not a weird thing to do.
No, that was very common.
Okay, last one. This is a good one. Awful. This person overcharged my kids for a used unit. He took in a trade on 3 controllers and a fully functioning Xbox Live, probably a system, and sold them a used Xbox One with 1 controller. They paid more money than a new unit sells for, and the new unit isn't reading all games. Totally take advantage of a young consumer. When I wish I would have been there, I was at work. Well, you should have been there if they're making that big of a purchase. Then when I went to call to complain, the manager was rude on the phone and helped others in the store while I was talking. What customer service? Then when I requested the district manager phone number, he told me he didn't have it. Seriously, what kind of company trains this way? Worst company ever.
Wow.
Here's one last one just because this one makes me laugh. Let me tell you, this is the sloppiest GameStop ever. Employees are lazy and hang up the phone when trying to do curbside delivery. You can see them inside of their phones hanging out. Grade A garbage. Can't wait till they're bankrupt.
Jeez, that had to have been a COVID review.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean curbside
just
delivery.
Just the curbside.
Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah. Let's see if we can find
curbside delivery.
There's no like super old one, which is a bummer. I would love to find one from like 10 years ago, but the sloppiest GameStop ever. I love that one.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the curbside thing from COVID. Like you had to get your games curbside.
COVID should have been. Why weren't people just buying stuff digitally at that point or Amazon?
I know.
You needed it that day.
You needed it that bad. I mean, but again, I can remember countless times when you and I were there when you would get that day where it'd be like the worst weather possible.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Just horrible storm or whatever. And then you have that parent come in with the snotty kid, and they make that comment like, "Oh, it's terrible out there." You know,
we used to laugh about it because
little Timmy's got to get his game.
Literally nothing would stop people. It could be. Yeah, I mean, you hear stories.
Drove over 5 people to get in here, but it's terrible out there.
How come your parking lot isn't plowed? Why do you think? Why am I here?
Exactly. Absurd. But we can kick over to emails. The first one we have is a lengthy one.
It's a good one, though.
So it's a good one. It's a lengthy one. And that's why I said I'd put a pin in that conversation because we would come back to it. So this comes from Jerry from Denver, Colorado. It says, I remember pre-ordering Series X and PS5 before their releases, and when looking forward to next gen, in my mind, Xbox One and PS4 were underpowered out the gate and was later proven with both consoles getting a mid-gen refresh. With EA announcing that Jedi Survivor is being backported to last gen, to me, it's just becoming annoying that this industry cannot seem to completely move on from last gen and take full advantage of current gen. Survivor was deceivingly touted by the devs as something to take advantage of next-gen power, and at the time, we knew it to be current-gen only. The game releases and is a buggy, unoptimized rush game. I'm currently playing it, and it's definitely a good game, but I think to myself, why are they putting resources into a last-gen port when this current-gen version needs more resources to make it a stable, optimized experience? Why can't we truly see what this gen is really capable of? There's only been a handful of current-gen exclusives since November 2020, which begs the question, what is the point of this generation so far, if we're literally going into its mid-gen life cycle in 2024? Documents show that next gen will be in 2028 in the latest ABK acquisition, and we're still porting games on a year-old and on, I think he meant say on a 10-year-old system at this point. It kind of defeats the whole, whoa, look at this new tech power on these consoles before a new gen starts and what you're looking for to see what developers will extract from them. It's just getting annoying at this point that the developers are holding on to last gen. I get it. The install base is huge, so was PS2's, but PS3 fully moved on by 2007, only a year after its launch. Again, we're approaching a full 3 years later, and the games that were touted as next-gen experiences, we're finding out that that's apparently really nothing next-gen about it, and 2013 hardware can provide the core experience. Damn. I feel like this gen is a waste in this sense. I can't understand why pour tens of millions of dollars into R&D for next-gen consoles just to underutilize them and this far into their life cycle. This generation has barely started. I still haven't seen a game that makes me a true generational leap that PS4 and Xbox One could only dream of. Is that game coming in 2025? 2026? I mean, that's 5 to 6 years into the console. I remember seeing Gears of War in 2006, and it was clearly recognizable as being a game that you knew wouldn't be possible on the OG Xbox. That can still happen. I'm just waiting for it in this gen, and how this industry is still keeping one foot in the last gen and delaying that kind of seminal game, in my opinion. What do you all think? So, like I said before,
there's a lot of really good points in this.
A lot of really good points.
For sure.
The one thing that he didn't touch on, which is, keeps still coming up, is like, are there going to be those mid-gen refreshes this generation or not? There's a lot of evidence that there's a PS5 Pro, but on the flip side of that, Microsoft is really coy at saying that there isn't on their end. So it's a weird prospect on that regard. But like, again, I have the same opinion a lot of times. Like, we haven't really had those experiences. Like, even if you look at PlayStation 5, God of War, Ragnarok is on PS4.
Well,
Horizon was on PS4.
Thing, though. Here's the thing, though, and I realized it while you were reading his email, and I thought about it for a second, where he goes back and he talks about how PS3 moved on from PS2 in about a year, and that's true. PS2 hung out until like 2008 for the most part.
Yeah, however, like God of War 2 came out on PS2.
But however, there's a reason for that, and it's because PS3 was not designed to be backwards compatible. Like, the first couple models were in a weird way because, remember, they emulated it. The 80 gig emulated it. The original 60 and the 20 had that PS2 hardware kind of jammed inside. So that's why it was $600 is because, there's also a PS2 in this box. But that wasn't designed for that in mind. And they got away from that really quick because they quickly switched to like the 40 and the 80, which where they were like, well, we're going to drop the PS2 stuff and move on. And so they're not going to sit there and continue to make PS2 games when they actively are not making a system that does not play those games.
Right.
PS5s play PS4 games.
Yeah.
And with streaming and all this other stuff, hell, dude, they kind of play PS3 and PSP and Vita and stuff now.
They do.
In a weird way because of this kind of stuff. But they're still actively selling PS4s. They're still, like, they haven't stopped production on those at all. You know what I mean? Like, you can buy them. There's a little bit of a disconnect there, but, like, times are different now too, where they can make PS4 games just available digitally and put it out that way. They weren't doing that with PS2 games and PS3 games where there was a factor for that. That being said, I think it's dumb. Like we're 4 years into this thing almost. Like, what is going on? Even a game like Horizon. Well, the DLC is only on PS5.
It is, and that's because of the cloud stuff.
But you know what I mean, though?
But yeah.
Even the original, like, you didn't have to make that last one work on PS4. At least Square finally is like, you know what, man, we're done. Final Fantasy 15 or 16, PS5 only. We're moving on.
Yeah.
We have to move on.
Mortal Kombat.
We have to move on. Now, could I see some fucked up PS4 version of Mortal Kombat 1 coming out next year? Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, and the reason I say that is because there's a Switch.
Version, and that's the other thing about this. Like, as long as they're still making Switch games, they're kind of still making PS4 games, right?
I think that's the other part of it. Is like, if you think back to the last generation when it started, Nintendo, Nintendo wasn't the big thing it is now.
Right.
Okay, that was the Wii U. People didn't give a shit about that. Developers didn't care about that system. Whereas the Switch, they really care because there's a lot of Switches out there. So if they can still import games to that,
there's still that game so to PS4. Like there's almost like there's two versions of development now, and this has happened before. Again, in like the PS2, Xbox, PS3, 360 era, where there's a part of the company that makes PS5 and Xbox X games, and then there's a part of the company that makes the Switch, PS4, Xbox One titles. Where they make them as close as possible. Like that's the first step to kind of getting away from this stuff. And if this Jedi game comes out and it's not the same, it proves that companies are willing to do that. But like you said, it can't be. But it proves that they're willing to separate this stuff out and be like, well, here's next gen development. Here's last gen development, which Switch is falling into last gen now. It is. But Nintendo's another weird. It's a weird thing where it just lives on its own. It's not even last gen or next gen. It's just Nintendo. It just exists. It is. But as long as those games come out, I mean, look at this. Look at this fucking Red Dead remaster. There's your perfect example. That remaster was converted so it would work on Switch and PS4. Same game.
It is. And
they're willing to make it just make it the same game, but it kind of sucks on Switch if you have played it in handheld. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. Like I wish we could get farther away. It always takes years for a console to come out for it to actually get to a point where it looks how it should. A great example of that is go play Gran Turismo 3 and then Gran Turismo 4 on PS2 and explain that those games are on the same system because they do not look like they are.
Do you think, because think about like this fall, Spider-Man 2 is a PS5 only game. Do you think there's any world in which they go back?
I don't think it can because the map is bigger again. Like part of that game is the map is bigger.
So my hope is like, please let this be the one.
Well, I mean, realistically though, at some point in time, you're just going to have to stop.
You have to at some point.
You just have to stop because whether or not, Final Fantasy 16, as you guys were saying, it didn't sell as much as we thought we did. But I mean,
that's not coming.
Are you going to make a PS4 port?
No.
Exactly. Like, why would you do that?
Or you look at situations like the Resident Evil 4 remake, which they did they kind of did the Jedi Survivor thing. The only difference is that they announced it as being current gen only, and then later said, "No, we'll do a PS4 version." And that PS4 version is not good at all. If you've ever seen any of it, it's not a very playable version of that game. So like, if that game doesn't run very well on a base PS4, there is no way in hell this Jedi Survivor thing is going to...
That's your other problem with making stuff for PS4 still. Because it can't just run on a Pro, which is realistically the only way some of these games could work. It has to work on a regular PS4. Which, exactly. Hell, there's games on PlayStation 4 that barely work on PS4. And they were made for it.
Yeah.
Like by the time you had it happen, a friend of ours had it happen, like it sounds like your PS4 is on fire.
Spider-Man
Back for Blood on PS4. I was playing that co-op with a buddy who was on PS4. I could hear his PlayStation. Damn, dude.
I think the first game for me that it was really bad was the first Spider-Man on PS4 Pro. It just was insane at times how loud it was. So, granted, that game was really crushing what that system could do.
That game was pushing it hard,
very hard.
But that's another reason why I don't think they could make Spider-Man work for PS4. But like we were talking about, like GTA is a system seller. Spider-Man is that on some level.
I would argue Spider-Man will be a system seller this fall.
That is a game, arguably for everyone. It's fun to just play. It has a good, it has a good story. It looks incredible, and like it's a big enough character where people are interested in upgrading their system for that. Especially if you've waited this long, you were waiting for a game that told you to buy the system, and a lot of people played Spider-Man.
Well, also at the same time, let me put it this way: if you want to talk in terms of Spider-Man, that animated movie, which came out in June, was like beginning of June. It's one of the only superhero movies this year that did well at the box office outside of like
Guardians 3. Yeah.
Everything else was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So like in terms of box office numbers, so like you have that, not even like the Tom Holland audience. You have the kids that maybe they only know Spider-Man is the Miles Morales stuff.
Yeah.
Are going to be into this game.
Yeah.
So,
but could it run back on the PS4? No,
I don't think so.
I don't think they would do it. I don't think Insomniac would be like, yeah, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take time for that. We're gonna take time away from making Wolverine and whatever this other game we're making is.
Yeah,
and like they have to have something about Spider-Man 3 in motion or whatever the next
the next thing is.
So like they're not gonna waste time to be like, hey guys, can we cram this on PS4? Maybe if we cut out those islands and scale the story back. Maybe we cut out a villain or two. Like they're not going to do it.
I just don't see it.
I've accepted my fate right now that if I want to play anything new that comes out, I need to buy the next gen system.
I think we're far enough in that's a reasonable expectation, though.
I think it is.
Exactly. Not everybody wants to buy a system the day it comes out, and I understand that because most times there isn't a great reason to do it. Kyle and I have done it because I think we kind of feel like we have to, and like
I honestly only did both systems. This generation was the first time I've ever done both at the same time. I've never done that, so I've always just been like, all right, I'm picking one, and maybe a year from now I'll get the other or something. I did that with Xbox and PS4, but for this one, I was like, no, actually, I want to compare them and see. But I will say, even like doing that, like. There were at least at launch, there were a couple games I could play on the PlayStation. Be like, okay, there's games here for the Xbox. It was a wasteland.
Yep.
Of just like, hey, this looks a little better on this system, and like this dash actually works on this system. But that was kind of what it was when it launched. Whereas like now, obviously, there's stuff to play on it, but I don't know going into when we get to 2028, whatever hellscape the world will be in 2028, what those systems are. I don't know if I would do that again, pick both of them at front. I probably would just pick one or the other and be good for a while. So but yeah, it's I 100% agree with it. Like it's to the point where like I just want to cut off.
I agree too. Like I don't feel like we're anywhere near the potential of these systems yet.
That's the thing. Like I would be in a different boat if, say, end of last year, like, okay, we're not making games for those systems anymore, and we had a solid like 1.5 to 2 years of games that are only for these systems, and then you want to talk to me about a PS5 Pro, I could understand that argument. But because that hasn't happened, we're not ready for that. We haven't even
scratched
the surface of what these systems can do.
We can't even hit 60 frames on every PS5 game.
Exactly. Yeah. So
and you're telling me that's because this system isn't powerful enough and I need to buy the next version of it? Then why then what is this system?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So next email we have comes from Kenneth from Nashville, Tennessee. He says, "Hey guys, love the podcast. I'm curious what you think of the industry falling over itself with Baldur's Gate 3 and if this game might overshadow the release of Starfield, which is now just a few weeks away. The game releases on PS5 September 2nd, so there's a great chance it could steal some of that thunder. Thanks." They're both very like in-depth RPGs, but they're totally different types of games at the same time. As we talked about earlier, like
the other thing about this that it's interesting because it kind of worked out this way because they can't make Baldur's Gate for Xbox.
And Starfield ain't coming to PlayStation.
It's kind of like one's a PlayStation game and one's an Xbox game right now. So
exactly,
I think you'll see a lot. I think Starfield will have a lot of players at least that first week, just because everybody's been waiting for it, and it's on Game Pass. Yeah. Like you own it if you have Game Pass. So I think that game will maybe take a little bit of thunder away because it's only because it's an Xbox game. And Baldur's Gate is an option. Now, Baldur's Gate was also on Xbox at the same time. I could see it kind of being a problem and taking people away from playing Starfield because it would be, Starfield's on Game Pass. I can play that whenever. Exactly. But Baldur's Gate is like new right now. Everybody's playing it right now. I want to play that right now. But, if you have an Xbox, I assume you're playing Starfield that first week. Right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's what it's going to be that week for sure. Next email we have comes from Grant from Phoenix, Arizona. It just simply says, "Well, did you all see Turtles? What did you think?" So, we have all seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Mm-hmm. All in various different theaters and theatrical experiences, which I'll kick it off. I mean, I first of all, I'll say I don't think any of us disliked the movie at all.
I loved it.
So I loved it. Yeah, I really honestly had nothing negative to say about it. In terms of going to this other theater, so originally we were going to go that Thursday night. We had something come up last minute. We couldn't go. So I learned that you can refund tickets on Fandango, which I didn't know. And then, wasn't sure if we were going to, I still really wanted to go, but I wasn't sure. And then I asked my girlfriend Saturday night, I'm like, there's a 10:15 a.m. showing Sunday. Do you want to just go, see it? And I'm like, it's literally 90 minutes. It will be in and out. It's not, because, every movie we've gotten to see this summer has been, 3-hour epic, And I'm like, this will be a short 90-minute thing. So we go. It is right when that theater's opening. I don't think there was any other movie that started until maybe a little bit later. This was the only movie that was playing early. Whatever. I showed the guy our tickets because I bought them online. We go to walk into the theater. There is no lights on. It is the darkest, blackest hole of a movie theater you'll ever walk into. To the point where I had to pull out my phone, turn on my light, and be like, I guess so I'm sitting down. And this went on until 5 minutes after the movie was supposed to start, because it was really weird. And here's the best thing, because this was kind of the test I told you. Well, I was like, I wonder if this will get packed. If it's not, people piled into this movie at 10:15 on a Sunday morning.
Damn.
It wasn't sold out, but it was very close to being it by the time that the movie started. I mean, eventually then somebody turned on the lights. Then they left the lights on too long. So I couldn't see the first trailer they showed because the lights were on. But then it was fine, whatever. So, but yeah, to answer that question, I don't know what it is. This theater it racks people in. I will also say the couple times I've driven by it during the, Barbenheimer days here, it has been packed with people every day. So, I as far as Turtles go, I'm not a diehard Turtles fan. I've grown up watching the movies, a little bit of the cartoon here and there, playing some of the games. That being said, I really enjoyed this version of it. Mm-hmm. I think It's definitely better than the Michael Bay shit from a couple years ago. Yeah. That wasn't bad. It's just very forgettable. Whereas I think the biggest thing, why I talked to my girlfriend about it when it ended, because the only thing she knows about Turtles is those Michael Bay movies, which is sad. But the thing that she said, and I agreed with, was what I liked about this movie in comparison to almost every other is each turtle felt like their own character for once. It wasn't like, hey, we're only going to really focus on Leo, or like if you think about that animated 2007
that was
movie,
a Raphael movie.
Yeah,
that was a Raphael movie. Yeah. So like this, like they kind of started it that way with like, oh, we're kind of focusing on Leo because he's the leader, but like no, they gave each turtle like ample time.
They definitely had
an ample
like,
identity,
distinct personalities from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing, obviously, is like they were played by actual kids. It's not, like 30-year-old dude trying to be a teenager.
Teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, the thing I said to you is like it's a movie where I feel like every single person involved just had a blast making this movie. Like, there was no part of it I was like, boy, that was kind of dumb or something. Like every part of it worked for me, and I enjoyed it from beginning to end. And now I'm at the point where like I don't know if I enjoyed this more than Mario. Like it's kind of hard for me. Like, what was the better animated movie for me this year? Granted, I have not seen Spider-Man, so. I haven't now, but I have not watched it yet. So, but for me, I loved it. So
yeah, I mean,
I think I gave it like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I would put it probably around there too. I will say like of everything about it, the only thing I would say I would have like a minor complaint about was I don't want to say that I didn't like the animation style, but it was very dark. Like it's I get it. Like it's at night and we're underground and all this stuff. Sometimes it was hard to see what was happening, and that happens in action movies in general. But especially when it's darker and the color palette's all the same, and it's hard to distinguish them. Sometimes, like there's a fight in that like auto garage, which is kind of in the dark. Kind of tough to see what's going on. So like I wish they could have done more with lighting in the movie. I guess would have helped.
Okay.
But that's a minor complaint considering that the rest of it was so good.
For sure.
It's I told you beforehand going in that like I love Jackie Chan to death. Like more than I don't think anybody
nobody here dislikes Jackie Chan.
But I love him more than most people do. Just because I've bought every movie on VHS and all that kind of stuff, and I have all the weird ones and all that shit. And so I was really excited for him to be Splinter. I was surprised at how much of the movie he got. Like he was in a lot of it. And I told you my absolute favorite part of that movie is there is a scene where Splinter has a fight scene, and it is basically Jackie Chan, like a fight scene you would see in a Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah,
like he's using the environment and using stuff, and like it's goofy, like. Reaction.
He totally had a hand in how that was made. He
must have helped choreograph that fight.
Sure.
Like he must have, because like the whole time I watched it, I was just getting vibes like this is. I could easily see this being him doing this in live action, which was great. Yeah. And then they do that little training montage where they're showing like old kung fu movies, and they're showing and they show Jackie Chan movies in there, which was a great touch. Just little pieces because like there's some weird like live action movies spliced into this movie. All the characters were great. They leave a lot of open ends for the sequel to what we already know exists, but it's going to be what you think it is, but I think there'll be more to it than that.
So it also begs to say, like, what are they going to fill in between the next movie with this like kids cartoon TV show?
They also do, the villains I don't feel like get enough time to shine, and they kind of resolve that in an interesting way at the end, but I don't necessarily know if it's fulfilling for like long-term success of the franchise, but it's fine. I had no problem with it.
I liked Ice Cube a lot.
Ice Cube was fantastic.
He had so much fun.
Like everybody was just having fun. Like Paul Rudd had fun. Like Post Malone as the singing manta ray guy is funny because he just wants to sing. Good. Like even like Leatherhead was great. Like Wingnut was great. Like everybody was so good, and it was all the characters I want to see. We didn't get a whole lot of Baxter, which was a little weird because I thought he'd have more of a part.
They got that Giancarlo Esposito guy to voice him, and like he was in it for 2 seconds,
10 minutes in the beginning.
That was weird. Yeah. That was weird.
Yeah, it's an origin story, but it does it in the best way possible. Where it's like you kind of already know. We'll give you a little bit of a backstory about how our version is different than what you might think.
Yeah.
And just went forward. But yeah, I loved it. My kids loved it. My son, who, he's only 5, but and this is only the second movie he's been to. He would keep leaning over to me during the movie. He's like, "Dad, this is great." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." Like, so if it keeps his attention for it, like it's automatically a good movie.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing I'll say about it too, like I like they did have different cues and stuff for old time fans. I did like when they had that garage fight scene and the one turtle went through the car and they started playing the Go Ninja Go Vanilla Ice song made me laugh. But I also want to point out, like, the movie, like, if you take all the licensed music, and there's a ton of licensed music in this movie, the score is done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which is wild.
But they do a lot of movie stuff.
You can hear it though. Yeah. Like, there's one where there was one track in the movie where like it's literally like 8/16-bit music. And I thought that was awesome. So that added to the movie, because like I went into it, I'm like, boy, like that was something that I didn't even know, and then I had seen a review of the movie like right before I went to watch it, and was like, those two dudes, the soundtrack for this, and it works really well. So but I had a blast with it. It was successful from what I've seen, so I hope that this like iteration of the Turtles goes on for a while. We don't because. Again, what have we had in the last 10 years? 2 not whatever Michael Bay movies. So, and then that 2007 movie, which wasn't bad, but it was a Raphael movie. It wasn't a movie. Yeah.
So I'll say this. The theater I went to was packed at all. There was maybe like 20, 25 people in there.
Okay.
I went at 11:30 on a Sunday. So I enjoyed it. I will say I agree with you as far as with the Splinter fight. I literally leaned over to my wife and I said, "That's literally every Jackie Chan movie I've ever seen."
It is
like, and it doesn't bother me either. I mentally transplanted Jackie into the movie because I was like, holy shit, that is literally what he does and like how his mannerisms
that specific part where he's like in the office chair and he like lowers it down and he spins around. And, like, I'm just like, oh my God, like I can picture all of this in my head.
It was amazing. So I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10. The only thing about so the animation reminded me of that old school Genesis music video with the puppets.
Okay.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
I am not a fan of that music video. Like those puppets freak me the hell out. So there were times in the movie where like they showed a person and it automatically triggered me to go. Okay,
some people look weird in it. Like some non major person in the movie, I think is made to look different on purpose. It is in a strange way because like
for sure
because like major characters like April was I thought April was great.
Yeah, she looked fantastic.
Like I have no problem with it. April is great.
Yeah.
I will also say though, I think out of all the movies, all the cartoons, all the comics, everything about the Turtles, this is the only adaptation of the Turtles where I actually felt like they were actual teenagers.
Yeah,
everything else has made me feel like the Turtles are older, like mid-20s, early 20s maybe. Like the Michael Bay movie, they were all older, felt. Even in 1, 2, 3, they still felt older. They didn't feel like teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Like you get that brief like training montage where they are teenagers, and then it's like, all right, well they're adults now.
Even the popular cartoon that we watched, like was as kids, like that, they didn't really seem like teenagers. You're right; they seemed like early 20s.
Because if you look at it, if I kind of play like the way they age it based off of April, because April is always going to be in the movie,
right?
And in every single movie or comic, she's older. She's an older lady. And I felt like this time it was good because you know, like their Turtles were talking about dad, you know, and we're going to get in trouble
right.
again.
We want to
do this. Dad's going to
the goal of the whole movie is to go to school. Like they want to go to high school.
Right. So I liked it. I thought it was awesome. I also liked the ongoing joke about humans milking them.
Yeah,
I thought that was fantastic.
It paid off well. Like that was a good payoff when it finally paid off.
It very did. So all in all, I enjoyed it.
In my theater, when they they obviously go to the full extent with that joke, and but very, very brief minor spoiler. They do get captured and hooked up to that type of machine at one point, and they turn it on, and one of the turtles starts getting milked, and there was a kid behind me that lost his shit and just started crying at that part. It had to be taken out of the movie. So
that's funny because my kids were like confused by it. They're like, "Are they? What's happening?" I was like, "They're not like it's not." They're having the ooze like taken out of them. They're not milked.
Yeah.
But it's just a joke.
Exactly.
My kids got it, but like, yeah, it's a joke. And it was a weird scene just because like maybe that's going a little far for what is a kid's movie in general. But
out of the corner of his eye, what is that machine?
Yeah, what is that machine? Like that, it had a really good
Machine 3000. Yeah, it did.
It was really awesome.
So, but yeah, overall, we all very much enthusiastically enjoyed the Turtles movie.
Very good.
So,
also my favorite last thing I loved was when they're doing the credits and showing like all the famous people and stuff in it. I laughed that it says introducing Paul Rudd as Mondo Gecko.
Yeah,
like we're just clearly just like Seth Rogen fucking with him and just putting that in there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Next email we have is we'll shift gears from Turtles. Comes from Vivian from Redacted. So, it's a GameStop email. Mm-hmm. Hi, guys. Love the podcast. I just wanted to email in and scream. Everything at my store has been busted or broken in the last month, and no one will fix a goddamn thing for us. The chime when the front door of the store opens is busted, so I don't hear customers coming in. Our TV, broken. It simply doesn't turn on anymore. Damn. And while normally I'd be happy to not hear GSTV anymore, it's made the store deadly quiet to the point of being creepy. And our back door, I have to literally kick it several times to get it open. The only things that thankfully are still working are the AC and the toilet. But how fucking hard is it to get someone out here to fix these things? The DO keeps saying shit like, I'll look into it, and that's when I can get a hold of him. Most days he just dodges my calls. He hasn't visited our store in 2 months now. Every time I'm close to calling the RL, the voice inside my head says to stop because my DL will be is also incredibly vindictive, and I feel like doing that would result in me losing my job. Any advice for me? Well, other than I was going to say, document.
Break your air conditioner and walk out that bitch.
Make sure it's all documented. I would, I mean, not that it's going to help you too much, but like document that like you've tried to get this stuff fixed. We've talked about it in this podcast before where we had to deal with broken stuff like a roof and stuff. And
the roof,
yes. And like I had documents of that because I would email people constantly, but you're smart not to go to your regional because your regional is either going to ignore you or B, get you in trouble somehow with your DL for them being contacted for that kind of stuff. The best solutions to these problems are, and this is something that we dealt with certain things like this in certain ways. The door chime not working, go to a hardware store. No, there's an answer for this. Go to a hardware store and get one of those motion alarm things that are like, it's hard to explain, but it's like a security system where like there's a piece you hook to one side and there's a piece you put on the door, and every time it separates, it chimes. Those are like $10. Get a couple of them, put them everywhere. Like you can even get like the sensor ones, which have like a line of sight thing, and put it at the end of your counter. And so anytime somebody goes in and out of behind the counter, it goes off.
Yeah.
Like
it's not bad.
These are smart things you can do, which are, out of your own pocket. But if you're concerned about not being able to hear people come into the store,
that's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad because that is an important thing. Because like if I'm in the back putting something away or anything, or
in today's GameStop age where you're probably the only person there for a shift
for the entire day. Like you need to know when people are coming in and out. But literally, just any kind of hardware store, Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's, they'll have them for sure. Even smaller places like Ace Hardware and stuff. But look for security alarms that are like a contact point where once it's separated, it goes off. Put that on your door. We said I bought extra ones for our glass cases at work because like the iPods and stuff, they're like, put this in the thing. No, I'm going to get a different one. And then get ones for the counter where it's like a line of sight kind of thing. And you can hook it up where anytime somebody walks past your counter, it beeps. That's step
Well, especially
one.
I always think of our store because our store had that weird counter where it was only one side.
We were lucky we only had
a lot of stores.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stores have it double sided, so
get two of those.
You can get it on either side. So
yeah,
get two of them.
Yeah. But that's good because it'll let you even know when employees are going in and out from behind the counter. But people try to reach over onto the back counter and grab stuff and swipe it. And if you're in the back and you can't hear them come in, maybe you can at least hear the sensor go off behind the counter. That'll freak people out because they won't even know it's there. A door sensor, most people are aware of. Like, something will tell you where you're coming in, but that's a good secondary backup.
It is.
The TV part sucks because you think it's a blessing until you don't have it. Because you think it's a blessing that it's off, right? But it gets quiet in that place when you're by yourself.
It does. It really does. I can remember because we were lucky in the store that we worked in. We had a separate sound system, so we had a remote where we could turn it on and off.
There would be times where the TV wasn't working though, for 2 days or something. It wouldn't update or something, and it would just be quiet.
It gets quiet.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And if you
I could understand.
If you don't have interactives or something running, now the problem with that getting fixed is I doubt that they're necessarily interested in a fix for that. Because that could be any number of things. Behind those TVs, at least, ours was old, but it's a mess of wires and stuff that's hooked up to something outside the store and it's all beamed in. And we were lucky enough to at least have a reset button on ours. So if it did screw up, we could try to reset it. But they're probably not that interested in fixing your TV.
When our store closed and you had to help tear it down, wasn't our old TV hard wired into it?
They said something about we should take that down. So I got up on the ladder and I looked up into the ceiling with how it was connected, and it was fucking impossible. Could it be done? Sure, but not by me. We just kind of looked at each other and we're like, we're going to leave it. And we just left. There's no point.
It's not
going anywhere. It would have to be thrown away. Those were, do you want to take home a TV that was essentially on 365 days a year for how many years? 10 hours.
Because it wasn't because think about it, that TV was there before you started at this.
Oh yeah,
they didn't come in and replace that.
That was heavy old TV with bolted to the ceiling support 10 feet above our drop ceiling. Because remember how tall our ceilings actually were. Because if you went in the back, they were very tall. Stores, and we just had a normal size drop ceiling, and then it had its own thing on the back, and it was wired into where they would be send a signal, and so it just when it came time to take that apart, we're like, nah, never mind.
You don't you don't want that.
The last thing though, this thing about the back door having to kick it several times to get it open, the easiest way to get that fixed is to call loss prevention. And be like, this is something that and this, they might even fix your door too, but this is something that could cost the company money, and phrase it that way. We're like, I cannot secure the back room. I can't secure my systems, any of that kind of stuff. Because a lot of times if LP hears something about that, they will lose their shit.
You'll see somebody come out real fast if you tell them, especially in that specific way, this could cost this store money. They'll be out there right away to fix that shit.
A couple of years after I took over, we finally had an LP, a real LP visit, because we were getting an LP guy to office out of our store.
Yeah,
and so they came in to kind of set it up, and we never had LP problems at our store. We were always pretty good at it, but he was like, well, why is your back door like this? You only have one bar. It's like, you tell me, man, it's been like that since I got here. Well, you need a second bar.
I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. He's like, I'll get it scheduled. They put in a second bar in 2 days later. Or the one time when the asshole LP guy came in, and remember when they ended up firing that LP guy, he's like, well, we want to watch the camera. I'm like, all right. So I go back there and I open the thing up and I start doing he can't figure out how to use it because it's an older model.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's like, what? He's like, your thing doesn't work. I go, yeah, it does. I watch it once a month just for the hell of it. And he's like, no, it doesn't work. And I go back there and I'm right in front of him. And I start using it like normal. You have to turn the thing and hold it. That's ridiculous. I'm going to get you a new one. Okay, I really don't need a new one, but okay. And then remember, he's like, I'll get you a new one. And he sent me a new one, and it didn't fit in the box. I couldn't shut the box.
Damn. I remember that.
I was like, you idiot. But it was only because he was so dumb he couldn't figure out how to use the one I had. So I had to learn a new one. But LP, generally, if it's something that could conceivably hurt the store from like a shrink perspective, they'll tend to take care of it. Our roof they didn't give a shit about because it meant nothing in terms of like theft or any of that stuff. But a back door, a system room door, cameras, even your door sensor might be enough for LP to fix it. So that might be worth a call.
It's a good ride to go for those things.
My only message for you is if you call for that, you're going to get audited. So make damn sure you're in a place where they're not going to come in and find you've got 6 deposits in your safe or a magnet key is missing or any number of things they like to get you on. That's opening up another can, but it might be worth it to try to get some of this shit fixed because other than that, you can do what I did and find out the facilities guy phone number and call him every day and eventually get blocked. You could try that. Or just email them every single day. And then nothing will ever get fixed. But technically, that's their job.
For sure. All right. And then our final email this week comes from Kent from Salt Lake City, Utah. Hi, guys. I've been thinking about this for the past few days. With streaming services seemingly all increasing prices within the next several months, and this password sharing crackdown being successful for Netflix and soon to start for Disney Plus, do you think we will ever see anything stupid like this happening with Game Pass? Currently, I game share with my brother who lives across the country, but it also allows me to share having a Game Pass subscription, which gives him gold, live access, and so on. Could Microsoft decide to shut that down if growth of the service becomes too stagnant? Or do you think because they are still in the we are the good guys phase, they'll keep it as is for the foreseeable future? Thanks. So, I mean, if you didn't know, I don't even know if you and I have had that discussion about Disney Plus, Dan.
Yeah, we
but two price hikes in 1 year is fucking bad. So the thing about Game Pass, like they just did their price hike, which was what, $1? Like it was really nothing.
It was the first time they'd done it in a long time too. So I mean, it was okay.
I don't think they've ever done it for Game Pass.
No, that was kind of thing where it's like, that's okay. I get it. It's been long enough, and you're adding a lot more stuff soon. I get it.
Well, when the ABK deal finalizes, you're getting a lot.
You're getting a lot of stuff.
If I got to pay $1 more a month for that, whatever.
Okay.
Like that's the way I look at it. Could they, like, first of all, like, do they have the right at any time to shut off the game sharing thing? Absolutely.
I feel like
that's all on them.
I feel like if they cared that much, they would have stopped it already.
They don't care. A lot of times there's lower execs, like an Aaron Greenberg or something, like not at Phil Spencer, but they'll talk about it on Twitter and stuff. So they personally, like, they don't seem like they really care.
Right.
Whereas, like I said, and I've said this before, like on the PlayStation side of things, like I can't share my Plus subscription, with my girlfriend. So, like, prime example, I just rebought Stray because she has not played Stray yet. I do have a physical copy of it, but at this point, I don't want to open it. And I hear, she can play it through the game sharing thing on the Xbox. So, like, there's no point. I couldn't do that on the PlayStation because it's a Plus game.
Right.
She can't load up her account and play it because she doesn't have Plus. So whereas on the Xbox, that's not a thing.
If they wanted to turn it off, I think they would have. I think they would have done it already if it was really hurting them that much. It's just the price. Like,
could it get to that point? Could it get to that point? Yes, I think if it ever gets to that point, it's under different leadership.
Yeah, I would think
whenever Phil Spencer decides, you know what, I'm done. And I think Phil Spencer's the type of person, like, when he's out, he's retiring. Because I think he'll stay here until that point.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to go work in a different company. No. I think he's a Microsoft lifer at this point. So, like, I don't think he's going anywhere for a while. But I think when he does, it's like, I'm retiring, peace out, whatever. It's who they bring in after him, which could be, we've seen this happen many times. That's what's interesting. Like, we've seen this happen many times with PlayStation. We really haven't seen it as much with Xbox, Whereas PlayStation, we had the PS3 generation, with different leadership, PS4 generation with different leadership, and then PS5. So, which many days I say I still miss Jack Trenton. So
yeah, weird to think.
We all do. So
yeah, I don't necessarily think PlayStation will raise prices right now either, just because they just redid Plus and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nintendo has never really seemed to care too much about charging you that much for online. Like, it's still only $20 a year to play online.
And then extra if you want the
$50 if you want the bullshit.
Digital.
Which, to be fair, there is value in there for certain people. I just don't care. For that stuff.
I have other ways to play those games.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit to that is, like, you get the Mario Kart stuff and you get the Animal Crossing stuff and all that stuff. But it's, that's something you gotta pay for that every year to keep that. It's like, why wouldn't I just buy it if I really wanted it?
For sure. For sure.
But like the Disney stuff, that's cool, man. I was on the annual plan, so I'm good through November. But when that's over, I'm pretty sure I'm done. Like, there's not enough content on there for me to care.
One, the fact that now we got I was going to say, we got the strike, and it even if they decided everything's cool, it's still going to be a long time before new content comes in.
The Disney Plus thing, for me, is just absurd because a year ago I paid $6.99 for that service.
Yeah.
Now I am paying double. They're not adding any value to that service, and now you're also going to do this password crackdown on it, which is like, I already hated that with Netflix. I don't need that for and that's the thing. And I said this before, and that prediction obviously is coming true. Netflix did it. It was successful enough for them. All of these services are going to do it eventually. Disney owns Hulu, so I would suspect that'll be the next one that happens.
Well, it's also the same thing where, like, now there's an ad tier, and now there's this tier with ad. It's like,
they're all doing the ad tier because people will do it,
right? Yeah, so it's like
it works.
Yeah, but it went from I have Netflix and Disney Plus to maybe I don't need either of them, and if there's something I really want to see, I'll wait till it's out, sign up for a month, and then cancel it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, end of September, I'll probably re-up to watch Castlevania and then be like, I'm out again because
I've got
Stranger Things will probably be back in 2030 at this point.
I don't need Netflix right now. I have my Disney's good through November because I was on the annual plan thing, and luckily Loki comes out before it's over, so I'll watch Loki and then be like, I'm good. I'll shut it up. Don't need it.
Yeah.
I
have to now. I'm like, I told my girlfriend the other day, like, well, I guess we need to finally watch Andor in the next 2 months because once October hits, it's going. Because she was bummed because like she cares more about Disney. I could care less. Like, for me, it's I don't think the Marvel output's been very good. The Star Wars output's been mediocre. Some of it's good. I will probably watch Ahsoka just to see if it's good. But like the Star Wars output's been mediocre. Like even season 3 of The Mandalorian, which I know neither of you care, especially you, Dan, but like they churn it into something completely different. So,
I had it for the kids
to the point of like it might not be him next season. It might be someone else as the Mandalorian. So yeah, and that's the thing. You have kids that watch Disney probably pretty regularly, right?
Yeah, but they also like Netflix. It's like it would just be like, which one do you guys prefer? Because that's the one we'll keep.
I mean, my thing is my kids like YouTube.
Well, there's that.
So, like, YouTube is free.
I've also got, I have a Roku, which has like free kids channels and stuff on it. They can watch that too. So it's like, it's just like these companies aren't giving me a reason to stay.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're giving us reasons to go away. And gee, it just sounds like all of this is going to fucking burst at some point. Like Max isn't great. It keeps taking stuff off. The Discovery thing, failed out the gate. The WWE one got fucked and got bought by Peacock, which is terrible. And the only reason I have Peacock is because I have Comcast. If I didn't have Comcast, I wouldn't have Peacock. Because it's not worth it otherwise.
The only reason I still have Paramount Plus, I want to cancel it really bad.
Yellowstone.
And I was all ready to do it. The other day. No, it's not because I don't watch Yellowstone. But I share that one with my parents, and so I was like, oh, I better ask them before I cancel it. And then when I was over at their house, they're like a couple weeks ago, and I said, like, I'm probably going to get rid of Paramount Plus. Well, we're watching Everybody Loves Raymond. And I'm like, okay, well, you also have Peacock, which I pay for because I don't have, I have Comcast Internet, but I don't have cable. And I pay for the no ad version of that, mind you. That's a separate story. Wow. But, and I'm like, it's over there. Why can't you just switch over? We don't like to, start things on different services. We've started elsewhere. I'm like, whatever. So I'm literally waiting for them to tell me we're done with Raymond and I'm going to cut Paramount because we're not watching anything on it. We watched all Bar Rescue up to whatever it is now. And who knows when they're going to put the new season of it up. So I was like, let's just cut it. That's $12 a month we don't need to spend. And then the other one that obviously Disney is the other one now that's on the chopping block. So my girlfriend was kind of upset, but I'm like, realistically, how often are you sitting down loading up Disney Plus? Never.
Yep. No.
She loads up Max to watch Iron Chef, because it's through Discovery on there. Like, I'm like, we're using Peacock, because of Top Chef, we're using Hulu is probably the biggest one we use the most.
Yeah, Hulu's
and then Max.
Honestly, at this point, Hulu's kind of the best one. And
Netflix, I have not had Netflix since I think May when that hit. I haven't missed a single thing. Like,
I only kept it because of the kids, and I never use it.
Yeah.
My parents will mention we watch this and that. I'm like, that's great. Like, I don't miss it at all.
I mean, the only reason I have Max is because AT&T pays for it,
right?
Because I have internet with them. I use Peacock because a friend of mine has Comcast, and he was like, "We'll share," and I was like, "Yeah, bro, whatever."
Yeah, somebody use
and then I have, and I have Paramount because it goes through T-Mobile.
But
really,
I have Paramount.
I mean, you got Tubi.
Well, you won't see. But again, are you watching anything on Paramount?
The only thing I used it for was to watch that new MacGyver series and
you watched
CSI and CSI Vegas as it was coming out. That was it.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Don't need it for anything else.
We used it.
I mean, you've got Tubi, you've got Freevee.
I've been using Freevee lately. It's fine.
Flex, there's a bunch of stuff nowadays. Yeah.
Depends on what it is.
If it's an older show I've seen before, ads do not bother me.
Oh,
you know
no.
What I mean? That's whatever to me. I've seen it before.
I religiously use Pluto to watch old Unsolved Mysteries. I don't care if I see ads.
My TV has channels of old TV shows on it. I could just find one of those to watch for a day if I'm really that bored.
For sure.
I can't watch Unsolved Mysteries. But aliens creep me out.
I love the music.
I listen to the podcast. The podcast is good.
It's so good. The new Netflix one, which I don't want to pimp Netflix too much because of how heinous they are lately, but the new Netflix one is actually really fucking good. So that's the other show where it's those are the two shows, Castlevania and then the Unsolved Mysteries. Whenever those come back, I'll re-up to watch those.
I'll have to re-up Netflix for whenever the next Squid Game is. Watch it and turn it off. That's what I would do.
That's next year.
Yeah, I think so.
At this point, but again, who knows when anything is because of the writers.
Maybe there's never anything else ever again.
The writers/actors strike. I always forget to add that they're striking too.
Terrible.
So
yeah, buddy,
for extremely appropriate reasons to strike.
Yes.
So, anyways, that is going to do it for this edition of Podcast 572. As always, send your emails in to podcast572@gmail.com. And thanks for listening. We'll be back in another 2 weeks with another edition.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.